Our tale kicks off with the hero shoving a man away from an oncoming truck. His colleague's last words resonate, a frantic plea urging him to hang on. Now a spirit, Takahashi drifts in a void while a voice recounts his tragic life. A celestial woman materializes, presenting him with a new mission in her chaotic realm. She confesses her doubts about meeting his hopes, but is resolute to make an effort. A soft, understanding smile appears on the goddess's face as she contemplates him. She reveals herself as Lunaria, the overseer of this realm, formerly known as the goddess of creation. As he sinks into a dark void, he grimly acknowledges his death. A vivid memory cuts through the darkness, his sister's chilling, wide smile. Two spectral hands emerge from the void, representing his regret for a gift never given. His sister's final heart-wrenching scream reverberates in his mind as he fades away. Sunlight filters through the leaves as a young girl joyfully rouses a sleeping boy. Now awake, the boy greets the girl warmly, calling her Ellie. A decade has passed since his rebirth into this new existence. He mentally introduces himself as Rainford Bradroad, his new persona. He is the firstborn of a baronial lineage in the Great Heart Kingdom. His sister inquires if he's heading out, to which he replies it's merely a stroll. He strides toward the expansive, monster-ridden white-silver forest enveloping their territory. He muses that this world truly embodies the medieval fantasy landscapes he envisioned. Informing his parents of his playtime, his mother cautions him to stay safe. Crouching at the forest's edge, he readies himself to enter with intent. Channeling his energy, he prepares for a display of enhanced agility. He propels himself into the air, moving with extraordinary speed and elegance. Bounding between trees, he becomes a blur of astonishing velocity. His expression remains focused and resolute as he navigates the forest canopy. He lands smoothly in a clearing, poised to commence his training. He surveys a field, recognizing that his growing power is a blessing from the goddess. He gets ready to cast, recalling the 6 magical attributes available in this world. With intense focus, he summons a flawless, shimmering sphere of water. He envisions the water's entire life cycle to concentrate and amplify his spell. A single potent droplet of magical water descends from above. He releases the spell, aiming to create a magical irrigation system. His eyes widen slightly as he realizes his control has just slipped. Magical rain begins to splash on him, much to his dismay. He decides to improvise a barrier by merging earth and fire magic. A rough wall of stone bricks erupts forcefully from the ground. The swiftly forming wall surprises him with its raw, untamed power. Gazing at the outcome, he sighs in frustration at the challenge of controlling his power. The immense strain of the spell leaves him visibly exhausted and panting. With his magical energy fully drained, he kneels to the ground for a breather. He remembers how, as a child, he would collapse from mana fatigue. A memory surfaces of him unconscious on the floor after casting a simple spell. He marvels at his ability to wield magic for much longer now. Clenching his fist, he senses his magical energy beginning to replenish. A sudden peculiar whimper disrupts the tranquility of the forest. Instantly alert, he ponders what could have produced that odd sound. He rises and starts to trace the sound deeper into the woods. Pushing aside branches, he murmurs that the voice is coming from close by. He discovers a large, injured, wolf-like creature, questioning if it's a dog. He asks if it was the source of the noise, but it's clearly hurt and aggressive. Instead of whimpering, the creature emits a low, menacing growl. He inquires about the creature's well-being, sensing a dark presence behind him. His eyes widen as a colossal shadow suddenly looms overhead. An enormous tree toppled by an unseen force crashes down towards him. From behind the tree, the massive feet of a monstrous being come into view. A hulking, muscle-bound orc with horns and tusks towers over the boy. For a brief moment, he freezes, gazing up at the looming threat. As the orc lunges, the injured wolf lets out a sharp bark. The warning jolts him from his daze, and he narrowly dodges the powerful strike. He recognizes the beast from a book he once read, his expression turning serious. His thoughts race as he accurately identifies the creature as an orc. He swiftly ducks behind a tree for shelter, finding the wolf already there. Peering around the trunk, he sizes up the formidable adversary. He gives the wolf a quick, reassuring pat on the head, grateful for its support. A grim determination settles on his face as he resolves to fight. He clenches his fist, his mind racing to devise a strategy. He envisions taking earth, solidifying it, and transforming it into super hard stone. Next, he imagines using wind magic to launch these projectiles at breakneck speed. The final image in his mind is clear and lethal. He will create bullets. Kneeling, he gathers a swirling vortex of magical energy in his palms. The orc charges forward, a blur of motion intent on crushing him. With a fierce yell, he prepares to unleash his newly forged weapon. He releases a rapid barrage of magical projectiles from his outstretched hands. The magical bullets collide with the charging orc, delivering devastating impact. The creature is thrown back by the force, its charge completely halted. Slumped against a tree, he gasps for breath, admitting how terrifying it was. The small wolf, trembling, nuzzles against him for comfort. Suddenly, he recalls the creature's injury, guilt washing over his face. He apologizes for its suffering, assuring it that he will care for it. He tells the anxious creature that everything will be fine. His gaze hardens with determination as he vows to address its wounds. He envisions the creature restored to its beautiful, fluffy self. Placing a hand over the creature, he promises that he will heal it. The wolf looks up at him, its expression filled with surprise and hope. Now fully healed, the wolf appears adorable, tilting its head in confusion. The restored creature wags its tail energetically, brimming with new life. It joyfully runs in excited circles around the boy, barking happily. He laughs heartily as the cheerful creature continues to circle him. He hugs the fluffy creature close, relieved that it's safe. As dusk descends, he realizes he must head home or face his mother's wrath. He tells the wolf he has to leave, hoping it won't follow him. Turning, he begins to walk away, leaving the creature in the clearing. He smiles to himself, sensing the creature quietly trailing behind. Looking back, he asks the little wolf why it's following him. The creature trots towards him, letting out a soft whimper of affection. He urges it to return to its family, but it whines sadly. The persistent creature begins to affectionately nibble at his boot. Overwhelmed by its undeniable cuteness, his resolve starts to waver. With a blush, he concedes defeat, sighing that he can't resist. He lifts the joyful creature, asking if it wants to come home with him. Shiro, the wolf pup, puffs out its cheeks, grasping Reinfert's warning about his strict father. In a clearing of the forest, Reinfert cradles the squirming pup, pondering a suitable name. The creature gazes up with wide, eager eyes, its tongue playfully lolling out. With bright eyes and a resolute look, Reinfert decides on the name. He lifts the creature high, declaring its new name will simply be Shiro. As they prepare to leave, Reinfeld strides away, with the newly named Shiro barking happily behind. Time flows, marked by a view of the forest through a weathered stone wall. A caption indicates that 3 months have now passed. Renford's expression is one of shock, sweat trickling down his brow in disbelief. He stands before the now enormous Shiro, questioning if it has grown too large. Under the night sky, 2 men with a map and torch search the woods for a specific spot. In the clearing, they stumble upon a massive red magic stone, shimmering with immense energy. The scene shifts to reveal the grand and impressive exterior of the family's large manor. Ellie and her mother admire the stunning red crystal, recognizing it as a fire magic stone. Ellie turns with excitement, asking if this remarkable stone came from the orc her brother defeated. A flustered Reinfert quietly affirms it, while his sister continues to praise his incredible feat. Blushing with embarrassment, Reinfeld realizes he forgot to formally introduce his family. His thoughts drift to his adorably cute sister, Elizabeth, sweetly pictured among sunflowers. He recalls a moment when Ellie tried to prevent him from interrupting their father. Ellie's face is shown puffed with pride, taking her gatekeeping duty very seriously. The memory ends with him hugging her, thinking she's the cutest sister in the world. Renford greets his sister Ellie, who shyly peeks out from behind him. His mother warmly welcomes him as he enters the room where Ellie is already waiting. His thoughts introduce his mother, Melium, a formidable former magic user who supports her family. A flashback shows Melia in her prime, a powerful mage wielding her staff with confidence. Surrounded by books, Reinfert expresses his astonishment at the defeat of a fierce orc. He remembers the family butler, moved to tears by his young master's accomplishments. The family gathers around the large magic stone, and Reinferd's gaze shifts to his father. He identifies the man with clasped hands as his father, Lord Glenfield Proudroad. A memory reveals a smiling, muscular Glenfield who still maintains his training. He recalls that his parents used to adventure together as a party in their youth. A memory shows his father joyfully holding up the small wolf pup Shiro in a clearing. Renford remembers his concern about whether the family would accept Shiro as it grew. However, his family embraced the fluffy giant, hoping their son would grow up similarly. In the present, Glenfield holds his daughter Ellie, vowing to explain the orc situation. He explains that they discovered the orc's body and the magic stone deep within the forest. A survey team scoured the area but found no other signs of orcs. Renford sheepishly recalls the large pond and long wall he secretly constructed there. Glenfield concludes that the beast Reinfeld defeated was not merely an orc, but an orc king. Ranford is completely stunned by this revelation, his mind struggling to grasp the shocking news. An image illustrates the stark contrast between a standard orc and the superior, larger orc king. The silhouette of the orc king appears, a creature of immense power and ferocity. A vision of a devastated city reveals the vast destruction such creatures can unleash. Glenfield decides he will inform the king about the great beast's subjugation when possible. His focus then shifts to the other urgent matter, the potent fire magic stone. He reflects on the immense and perilous magical energy contained within such a large stone. Renford suggests they could break it into smaller pieces to utilize its power effectively. Glenfield considers consulting blacksmith Watts but hesitates about the plan. Sensing an opportunity, Reinford raises his hand to propose a bold and decisive idea. With a confident demeanor, he asks his father to entrust the magic stone to him. Glenfield is left speechless by the request, stammering his son's name. They journey by carriage to a remote area, with Reinfeld riding Shiro beside them. Glenfield steps out of the carriage, now burdened with the heavy, glowing red magic stone. Renford strides into a vast, desolate expanse of parched, cracked earth. His father questions whether this is genuinely the site he plans to use the stone. Rainford affirms it, revealing his ambition to construct large irrigation systems here. His father recounts their previous failures, highlighting the tough soil and absence of water. Renford beams with confidence, clutching the stone, suggesting it holds the key to his vision. He envisions a modern concrete dam, announcing his goal to build one. His father can only mutter the word dam, his face a mask of disbelief. Renford explains that a dam serves as a massive reservoir for storing and releasing water. His father concedes it's a beautiful dream, but points out the water shortage. Renford's expression darkens as he declares that abandoning the land is their only other choice. He extends his hand, formally requesting his father to lend him the magic stone. His father hands over the stone, cautioning Reinford to be careful and keep his distance. Alone in the basin, Reinfeldt takes a deep breath, focusing his immense power. The large red magic stone begins to pulse and radiate a brilliant, intense glow. The stone erupts with swirling energy, its elemental essence undergoing a dramatic shift. Globules of pure water burst forth, swirling around a momentarily astonished but focused Reinfeldt. His father cries out, witnessing the impossible as the stone's color shifts to blue. Renford calmly states he has altered the stone's attribute, leaving his father utterly speechless. He sets the glowing blue stone on the ground, calling out to capture his father's attention. His face in shadow, he warns his father to be cautious as it's about to tremble. Still in shock, his father wonders what else his powerful son could be planning. Renford stomps his foot down decisively, triggering the next stage of his grand design. He stands at the cliff's edge, recalling a moment when he faced death. Memories filled with static of his family from a past life flash through his mind. He also remembers the stress of his former job and the subordinates who depended on him. Raising his hand skyward, he gathers a visible vortex of immense magical energy. From afar, his father watches in horror as Reinfeldt channels his extraordinary power. His father's mind races, contemplating the impossible notion that his son has been reborn. With wild ecstasy, Reinfeldt throws himself backward into the deep chasm. He screams into the wind, embracing his new life of challenges with cathartic joy. He bids a triumphant farewell to the exploitative corporation of his former life. He vows to embrace a slower life this time as his power surges below. Above the transformed landscape, birds circle peacefully in the sky, heralding a new calm. The basin has transformed into a colossal, perfectly shaped reservoir, dwarfing the two figures. Renford presses his hands against the newly formed wall, ready to fill the reservoir. A massive waterfall bursts forth from the stone wall as his father watches, stunned. Renford gazes up at the waterfall, declaring the height of the walls to be ideal. He also notes with satisfaction that the foundation work he did is absolutely impeccable. His father calculates that at this pace, the enormous reservoir will be full in 2 days. They plan to establish a network of waterways connecting to the rivers across their territory. By installing sluice gates, they can ensure a consistent water supply for all the farmlands. Rainford proudly showcases the dam to his father, proclaiming it will bring them prosperity. His father suddenly grips him by the shoulders, his mind swirling with urgent questions. He demands to know how his son managed to wield two types of magic at once. Still holding the boy, he inquires about the incantation needed for the spell. Rainford looks up, repeating the word incantation with genuine confusion, as if it's unfamiliar. The Lord gazes down at his son, utterly baffled by the impossible power he possesses. Within the massive reservoir, the Lord rests a hand on his son's shoulder, awestruck by the immense power of the feat. A close-up reveals the Lord's face, his eyes wide with disbelief and confusion. Rain, held by his father, glances back, genuinely puzzled about altering a magic stone's properties. It's explained that changing a magic stone's elemental nature is deemed an impossible task in this realm. Additionally, the narration states that casting multiple complex spells at once is a power beyond mortals. Such magical prowess is described as belonging solely to the realm of myths and legends. A divine figure, the goddess Lucia, appears, having bestowed upon the boy what she termed a certain talent. An unseen voice scoffs at the understatement, attributing the thriving city around the dam entirely to Lucia. Ren reminisces about a book he once read, recalling the 6 fundamental magical attributes of this world. Seated in a library, he reflects on how his understanding was limited to this basic concept. He imagines a smiling witch, remembering that having 2 attributes qualifies one as a recognized mage. A solitary figure atop a peak illustrates that possessing 3 or 4 affinities marks one as a prodigy. Alone with a divided shadow, Rian ponders what his own affinity for all 6 attributes truly signifies. Ren's father leans against a bookshelf, his expression a mask of deep frustration and anxiety. He struggles with how to report his son's extraordinary and unprecedented abilities to the king. Rain's mother smiles gently, acknowledging she always believed he could wield magic, but this is different. A dark-haired attendant watches with admiration, stating that Rain's talent is expected of their young master. The mother brushes aside her husband's concerns, downplaying Rain's power as merely a degree of talent. The father, clearly stressed, resolves that worrying further is futile. He tells his family that, for the time being, Rain's abilities must remain a secret. Leaning over his desk, he insists that informing the king is simply out of the question. His mind races through Rain's impossible feats, chantless magic, synthesis spells, and altering magic stones. He fears that Rain's hidden power could be used against him if he were ever accused of treason. With his chin in hand, the father's expression darkens as he contemplates the perilous secret they must guard. He recalls his wife's casual remark about Rain's talent, his face etched with stress and worry. He informs his family that he plans to travel to the capital the following day to report on the dam. A vision of the new waterway forms in his mind as he reasons that the project will boost their tax income. He concludes that they can no longer afford to postpone this crucial project for their territory. Brian's face brightens with joy, completely misreading his father's true intentions. He excitedly tells his father that with increased harvests, their territory will surely thrive. Clenching his fist, he celebrates that his dream of a slow, easy life is finally within reach. His father approaches from behind, a hand reaching out to interrupt his son's joyful daydream. Firmly placing a hand on Rain's shoulder, he states seriously that he has a favor to ask. The scene transitions to a charming town with timber-framed buildings beneath a lightly clouded sky. Ren reads alongside his wolf-like companion, Shiro, cheerfully greeting a woman from the town. A mother and child wave, calling out greetings to both Rain and Shiro as they pass. Rain and Shiro arrive at a sturdy stone structure, the blacksmith's forge. He muses that while the new dam will enrich their lands, they lack proper farming tools. He remembers his father's words about a reclusive dwarf blacksmith residing in their territory. His father appears in a flashback, concern etched on his face. He explains that the magnificent sword displayed on the wall was a gift from the blacksmith, Watts. Unsheathing the brilliant blade, the father showcases its remarkable craftsmanship and balance. Ryan in the memory is captivated by the sword's exquisite beauty and quality. The polished steel of the blade shines, reflecting light from its flawless surface. The father cautions that while Watt's skill is exceptional, his personality is notoriously challenging. Rain recalls a memory from his past life, grasping the concept of a difficult artisan. The father formally assigns Rain the task of requesting a set of farming tools from the blacksmith. Rain eagerly accepts the mission, declaring he'll do it for the sake of his leisurely life. A gruff, mustachioed dwarf, Watts, shouts from inside his workshop, telling the kid to scram. The heavy wooden doors slam shut with a resounding bang, leaving Rain and Shiro outside. Feeling down, Rain pinches his nose, grumbling about the frightening man and the overpowering stench of old alcohol. He steels himself, reminding his heart that this is all for his dream of a tranquil life. With fresh resolve, he raises his fist and knocks assertively on the door once more. He introduces himself formally as Rainford, the son of Lord Greyford. The door creaks open slightly, revealing a sliver of the shadowy interior. Watts peeks out, muttering to himself about the annoyance of being disturbed. Taken aback by the boy's determination, the dwarf gruffly allows him entry, warning him not to be a bother. Rain appears a bit startled but visibly relieved to step into the workshop. Inside the disorganized workshop, Watts gruffly cautions Rain to tread carefully. The dwarf turns, impatiently demanding to know what the boy wants. Rain stands tall, presenting a letter that details his request. He clarifies that he seeks the creation of new iron tools for farming. Watts' face darkens immediately at the mention of iron plows, his gaze narrowing. He erupts in fury, slamming his fist down and shouting at the boy not to be foolish. He angrily explains that decent tools can't be made with the tough soil and subpar iron available. A close-up reveals Watts' eye as he mutters that he can't claim it's entirely impossible. Ren respectfully mentions he saw his father's magnificent sword and believes in the dwarf's talent. Watts clarifies that the sword isn't crafted from iron, but from a superior metal known as mithril. He clenches his fist, frustrated that such a valuable material is now nearly impossible to obtain. He scoffs at the thought of working with inferior metal, dismissing it outright. With a grunt of agreement, Watts allows Rain a brief glimpse of the workshop. Rain politely inquires if he could take a look at the workshop. As he steps inside, Rain is taken aback by the spotless and orderly forge area. He glances around, murmuring in astonishment that this is the workshop. The forge is cold and meticulously cleaned, with various hammers neatly arranged on the wall. A row of perfectly maintained hammers hangs in descending sizes. He observes the stark contrast between the chaotic entrance and the immaculate, seemingly unused workshop. Every tool is precisely placed, suggesting that no work has been done here for quite some time. Ryan's foot steps forward onto the pristine stone floor of the forge. Watts grumbles that the poor quality of local iron hinders him from crafting the tools Rain desires. He sighs in defeat, stating he's had enough and telling Rain it's time to head home. He turns to send the boy away, only to find the chair empty, puzzled about his whereabouts. He spots Rain in the workshop holding a single ingot of base metal. A swirling vortex of raw magic erupts around Rain as Watts demands to know what he's up to. Rain recalls a page from an ancient book where he studied the exact makeup of mithril ore. He concentrates on the image of his father's magnificent sword, hoping to replicate the mithril. A voiceover details the intricate alchemical process of melting and purifying iron using magic. Watts' hand gets caught in the process, and he yells in confusion and anger at the boy. Rain calmly holds the dwarf's hand, who cries out that it's scalding. With a sharp crack, the transformed crystalline object is yanked from the blacksmith's grip. The sheer force of the magical transformation sends the hefty dwarf stumbling back. Watts watches in utter shock, his eyes wide with disbelief at the power he just witnessed. A perfectly shaped dark rectangular ingot appears with a soft poof outside the workshop. The ingot floats gracefully in the air, surrounded by a gentle magical shimmer. Rain presents his creation with a hopeful look, asking if this will be enough for the task. Inside, Watts takes the cooled ingot in his gloved hand, scrutinizing it closely. He and Rain stand facing each other as the dwarf examines the flawless metal. Watts' eyes widen in disbelief. He realizes it's copper of an extraordinary, unmatched purity. Rain beams with a relieved grin, thrilled that his magical transmutation succeeded. He asks the astonished blacksmith if this remarkable material will be adequate for the task. Desperation takes hold as the hefty blacksmith kneels before young Rain. He bows low on the cobblestones, pleading to be the one to shape the metal. Ryan, completely taken aback, asserts that Watts was always meant to be the craftsman. Rain kneels, urging the emotional blacksmith to lift his head. Watts fervently explains that this is a once-in-a-lifetime chance for a simple craftsman. With pleading eyes, he insists this opportunity outweighs everything else. Finally, Rain concedes, asking the blacksmith to cease his formal bowing. Outside the workshop, Shiro the White Wolf watches the scene unfold with a sigh. Watts observes with deep satisfaction. The job is now officially his. With the agreement finalized, Watts formally accepts the contract from the young lord. Rain declares his intention to depart, turning away with a courteous wave. The blacksmith halts him, questioning what Lord Rain II means. He casually suggests that Rain should simply call him by his first name. The blacksmith points toward the yard, a sly grin spreading across his face. He showcases a massive heap of scrap iron, asking if Rain can handle it. The blacksmith watches with a triumphant, deeply satisfied expression. Ren stands frozen, his dream of a peaceful, slow life slipping away. Shiro realizes the boy's workload has just skyrocketed. Moments later, a colossal rock is shattered by an overwhelming force. Rain and his father survey a vast expanse where workers are laboring. His father muses in disbelief that this wilderness will transform into farmland. Rain agrees with his father, noting that prosperity seems within reach. A worker holds up a gleaming vegetable showcasing their ambitious farming plans. Rain dreamily lays out his 3-year vision for growing various crops. His father remarks that Rain's pronunciation of certain words sounds a bit off. Realizing his mistake, Rain flinches, worry etched on his face. He quickly explains that this world has familiar crops, but with different names. He provides examples showing how rice, wheat, and tomatoes are called differently here. His father starts listing the enormous logistical challenges their new plan entails. The list expands, including new tools, trade routes, and securing resources. He finishes by mentioning the necessity for new housing for the growing populace. Overwhelmed by the enormity, the father exclaims that it's impossible. Rain's expression shifts into a dark, playful grin, teasing his macho father. His face brightens as he declares their domain will become significantly wealthier. The two stand side by side, gazing out over the expansive project. His father concedes that this ambitious venture is ultimately beneficial. The rumble of an approaching carriage echoes through the countryside. Miles away, an armored man gazes out a window, bored by the rustic scenery. He remarks on the monotonous dullness of the backwater landscape. A grand carriage arrives at the estate, carrying officials from the capital. An attendant informs Rain and his father of the tax inspector's arrival. The father explains that officials have been sent from the kingdom's capital. He admits he was anticipating them, but they arrived earlier than expected. A close-up reveals Rain's concern as he questions Gaze. His father explains he had been reporting their progress while Rain was with Watts. He grimly foresees that this success will almost certainly result in a tax hike. Rain and his father are taken aback by the possibility of a significant tax increase. The door to the room opens quietly, revealing a visitor. Inspector Great Wall is already seated comfortably, announcing his presence. Rain jolts with realization. They're too late. The official has arrived. The inspector stands tall, exuding an aura of unassailable authority. Introducing himself as Vincent Greatwall, he scolds them for the delay. The father mentally registers the troublesome character they must now face. Vincent brushes off their greetings, diving right into the purpose of his visit. The father points to a pile of papers detailing the kingdom's new tax law. Vincent smugly reveals he has already prepared all the required documents. With a chilling final glance, he states that his calculations are complete. The inspector announces the verdict. The new tax will be 500 gold coins. Vincent appears briefly stunned by the shocking amount he just stated. A chart illustrates the currency conversion, emphasizing the tax's significant value. Rain is taken aback, realizing this sum will be imposed on their barren land. The Lord jumps up, protesting that this represents a tenfold increase. Vincent coolly inquires if the Lord has an issue with the official evaluation. The Lord stutters, struggling to find a response to the intimidating inquiry. The inspector recites the law, clarifying that taxes are based on potential farmland. The Lord is left speechless, while Rain clenches his teeth in silent anger. Vincent concedes that the land isn't currently cultivated, a hollow acknowledgement. The Lord desperately begs for leniency, suggesting payment after the harvest. He gestures earnestly, hoping for a fair compromise based on actual yield. Vincent's icy, unyielding stare reveals he has no plans to show compassion. He abruptly stands, dismissing their worries with a casual wave of his hand. He asserts that this isn't a suggestion, but a definitive ruling. Spreading his arms wide, he warns that his ruling is the king's decree. Rain shakes with fury, realizing that defying this order amounts to treason. He recognizes the inspector as a typical power-hungry sycophant. Ryan glances at his father, curious how the strong man will respond. The Lord sinks back into the couch, utterly defeated, muttering in despair. Ren observes his father's quiet resilience, knowing he prioritizes his people. He watches his father bow his head in submission to the cruel inspector. Seeing his father's humiliation ignites a spark of rebellion within the boy. He decides to act childish, ready to teach the inspector a lesson. Just as he prepares to move, the tense atmosphere is unexpectedly disrupted. A young girl with a big bow enters, carrying a tray. She approaches the guests, a large teddy bear balanced atop her tea set. She formally introduces herself as Elizabeth Proudroad, curtsying to the inspector. Rain whispers for his sister to tone it down. His own plan is now off track. Elizabeth pours tea, her hands shaking slightly from nervous effort. With a warm, inviting smile, she extends the cup to the inspector. In a swift motion, Vincent violently knocks the teacup from her grasp. Hot tea splatters across the teddy bear's face, which she held so proudly. The cup shatters, and Elizabeth collapses, stunned by the sudden aggression. She gazes at the ruined bear, recalling her mother's hard work. Tears well up as she realizes her mother's gift has been destroyed. Clutching her beloved Kuma-chan, she begins to cry, her body shaking. The inspector takes a menacing step forward, looming over the child. He looks down at her with disdain, asking who allowed her to speak. Elizabeth flinches, letting out a terrified whimper as hot tears stream down. The inspector throws his head back, releasing a cruel, mocking laugh. With a sadistic grin, he derides the tea, calling it bland and colorless. He sneers, claiming the ruined toy perfectly matches a filthy brand. Ellie, a young girl, breaks down in tears, her face reflecting deep sorrow. Her father rushes in, shielding her while frantically apologizing to the inspector. Furious, the young boy Rainford yells, challenging the inspector's disrespect. In a dark moment, he thinks the man is fortunate not to face execution. The Lord feels a dangerous change in his son, realizing it's due to his sister. Both the Lord and a weeping L.A. call out to Rainford, trying to hold him back. With astonishing speed, Rainford lunges across the room, leaving his family shocked. From the inspector's viewpoint, everything blurs as he utters a word of disbelief. Rainford's face radiates pure fury as he roars about his sister's tears. Silence envelops the room. Rainford confronts the inspector while his family watches in fear. A close-up reveals Rainford's icy, determined stare, his youthful features vanished. Vincent, the inspector, points a shaking finger at the boy standing before him. Rainford surges forward, launching himself from the ground with shocking force. The Lord and Ellie watch in alarm as Rainford charges at the inspector. The Lord calls out his son's name again, desperately trying to intervene. He begs Rainford to avoid trouble, though he understands the boy's emotions. Vincent's expression twists with shock and rage as the boy appears before him. With a sadistic grin, Vincent states that if the boy seeks death, he'll grant it. Rainford's eyes narrow with cold resolve, vowing to take Vincent down like a knight. Magical energy swirls as Vincent proclaims his icy blade of wrath will strike true. He unleashes his power, his face contorted in a furious cry of defiance. A sharp, crystalline arrow of ice forms from his gathered energy. Vincent shouts the name of his technique, Blizzard Arrow, launching it forward. The lethal projectile hurtles straight toward Rainford, who remains completely still. Rainford's demeanor is calm and serious, his gaze unwavering as the attack nears. The arrow collides with an unseen barrier, nullified as it vanishes into thin air. Vincent's face reflects utter shock and disbelief at his failed assault. The remnants of the arrow splash harmlessly at Rainford's feet, showcasing his defense. Vincent realizes with dawning horror that he has truly provoked the boy. Rainford apologizes for his poor imitation, questioning what's wrong with the inspector. He touches his chin, continuing to inquire why the inspector is so angry. His expression hardens, the politeness vanishing from his eyes. He offers a chilling apology to the inspector general while turning toward the exit. The blade of a sword glimmers, reflecting in his determined gaze. He vows Vincent will regret the choice to provoke him for the rest of his life. The room begins to freeze as Vincent gathers his energy for another strike. He channels his fury into his blade, preparing to slice his opponent in half. A close-up reveals immense power gathering, cracking the air around him. With a furious roar, he swings his sword in a massive swirling arc. He yells the name of his ultimate attack, Ice Hell Cositus. The chaotic vortex of ice and wind crashes through the room with tremendous force. Rainford stands firm, effortlessly commanding the attack to flow around him. The assault is redirected, embedding Vincent's sword harmlessly into the distant wall. Vincent stares, mouth agape, at the utter failure of his ultimate power. A close-up shows the sword lodged deep in the wall, far from its intended target. Abandoning magic, Vincent opts for a desperate physical attack. He lunges forward, a blur of motion aiming a slash at the boy's head. Rainford stands poised, his own sheathed sword ready to counter the strike. He effortlessly blocks the full force of the blow with his scabbard. Vincent strains with all his might, his face contorted in furious effort. Rainford faces the assault with an icy calm, his face betraying no emotion. The knight's fear escalates into sheer terror as he comprehends the boy's terrifying strength. A mere shove sends Vincent hurtling backward, his body spiraling through the air. The push is staggering, showcasing Rainford's extraordinary might. Vincent crashes into a sofa, which splinters dramatically upon impact. Rainford looms over him, declaring that Vincent will face consequences for upsetting his sister. He reaches out, inquiring about the tax Vincent owes. With a grin, he reflects on tax collection, finding it quite lucrative. He makes a swift slicing motion with his hand, his demeanor disturbingly cheerful. The inspector's steel pauldron is effortlessly severed in two, without any visible contact. Vincent gapes in disbelief as the fragments of his armor tumble away. He praises his own clean cut, his tone calm and conversational. He casually threatens to slice off both of the knight's arms, complete with a splat. He grins, asking Vincent if he thinks that sounds like a good plan. The mother reveals that the inspector uses that exact phrase during interrogations. Vincent watches in horror as his own cruelty is turned back on him. Rainford leans closer, sweetly asking if he prefers the sound of an arm or a neck snapping. The knight is shattered, stammers bewildered by the boy's words. Rainford holds a plain sword mentioning ICE magic in the inspector's office. He grips the hilt firmly, his hand quivering slightly under its weight. He politely requests the seated knight, Rhine, to take hold of the sword's hilt. The scene blurs, presenting an abstract depiction of thermal energy. With a bright smile, Rainford asks what happens to metal when heated to its limit. His gaze sharpens with an unsettling coldness as he questions if Rain understands. An abstract image illustrates crystalline structures shattering due to heat shock. Rainford explains how rapid temperature fluctuations fundamentally change metal's structure. He wonders what would occur if the object in question were a sword. He describes a method of gently heating the metal to trigger expansion. Rain's face shifts to alarm as he grasps where this explanation is headed. Rainford clarifies that the object will ultimately fail to endure the internal strain. He calmly illustrates this concept, holding a small rod before the seated Rain. He shows Rain the shattered remnants of the rod, its integrity compromised. With a gentle tap, he touches the greave covering Rain's lower leg. With a predatory grin, he proposes they conduct the experiment on Rain's body next. Rhine's expression is one of disbelief and dread, his composure utterly shattered. The threat is overwhelming. Rain collapses backward, foaming at the mouth. Rainford's family rushes in, looking down at the fallen knight with concern. The father concedes that while Rain was furious, Rainford went far too far. Rainford observes as the unconscious knight is tended to by his family. The scene shifts to the exterior of an elegant manor surrounded by trees. A view reveals a vast, dense forest canopy beneath a cloudy sky. The perspective shifts down to a tranquil elven village nestled among the trees. Inside one of the homes, the window panes rattle slightly from an unseen force. An elven woman glances up from her desk, sensing an unusual surge of magic. Miles away, Vincent jolts awake in bed, his eyes wide with alarm. He realizes he's been put to bed, his mind racing to piece together what occurred. A dark, intense expression crosses his face as a chilling realization hits him. He remembers the faces of the proud Road family, the Lord, his wife, and their son. The image of the young girl, his sister, flashes vividly in his mind. He comprehends that he was meant to be killed, not cared for, back to health. In an opulent chamber, a knight clad in armor reflects on how Rain's family acts as if his attack never occurred. His mind reveals the official narrative. He fainted from exhaustion during a meeting. Pondering, he recalls this was the explanation provided for the incident. Yet he understands that such a brutal occurrence can't simply be overlooked. A flicker of uncertainty crosses his gaze. He couldn't have just brushed it off. A haunting memory resurfaces, showing him ready to face death in that moment. Alone in his thoughts, he questions whether he could have triumphed over the proud Roads. Staring out the window, he recalls the sheer dread he felt confronting Rain's might. He admits to himself that his own abilities felt like child's play compared to Rain. His grip tightens on the bedsheet as he confronts his total and utter defeat. Yet another thought emerges, a softer and contrasting memory. He remembers the exquisite meal he enjoyed, particularly the surprisingly sweet tomatoes. Seated at the dining table, he recalls the unexpected warmth from the proud Rhodes family. He reflects on how such a feast would be unimaginable in his own strict household. A close-up captures his blissful reaction to the incredibly delicious cuisine. He remembers asking the Lord why the tomatoes tasted so unbelievably sweet. The Lord explained it was a local delicacy, and he relished the unique taste. Rain then cheerfully revealed that he cultivated them using his water magic. Vincent recalls another surprising trait of the young boy, Reinfeld. The boy had an impressive grasp of intricate tax laws that left him baffled. He finds it hard to believe such a sharp intellect belongs to a mere 10-year-old. A final, pivotal memory surfaces, shifting his thoughts yet again. He recalls the unique bladeless sword he wielded, which shattered when he collapsed. He remembers commissioning that special sword from a local blacksmith in the area. The weapon was crafted from pure silver, not your average steel. He recalls the issue with the sword regarding its unique characteristics. He remembers testing it by channeling his freezing magic into the silver blade. A massive, terrifying explosion of ice had ripped the very ground apart. He admits he never thought a human could wield such a demonic weapon. The scene transitions to a formal gathering where they deliberate on the territory's matters. Vincent recalls the final choice to maintain the current tax rate for the time being. He deemed it unjust to impose heavy taxes on the still developing farmlands. The view shifts to the manor's roof where he is recuperating. Lying in bed, Vincent contemplates the long and tiring day he has endured. He notices the sweet, gentle scent of a lily placed beside his bed. He remembers he is set to leave the proud road territory the following day. A wave of regret washes over him. He still hasn't properly thanked Ellie. He recalls the scene of a carriage with a broken wheel on the road. Crates of tomatoes, a specialty from her domain, were visible nearby. He and his father had halted their own carriage to lend a hand. Ellie approached, shyly calling him by his name, Vincent. She came closer, her gentle and sincere demeanor disarming him. With a genuine blush, she wished him a safe journey home. She then presented him with a single beautiful white lily as a gift. Vincent felt completely flustered, recognizing the flower's profound significance. He realized this kind girl was the same one who had shown him kindness before. He remembers her placing a lily by his bedside while he was unconscious. She had hoped its lovely fragrance would grant him a restful sleep. In his eyes, her gentle compassion felt almost saintly and maternal. The memory shifts to him kneeling on the ground before her. He humbled himself, genuinely expressing remorse for his past actions. Gratefully, he looked up at her, thanking her for her kindness. Ellie felt completely taken aback by his formal apology and gratitude. The incident compelled him to confront truths he had long avoided about himself. So focused on his grim responsibilities, he had lost sight of his true self. He came to understand he had neglected the most vital aspect, his humanity. Months rolled by, and life carried on in the domain. Rain celebrates the return to a routine life alongside his companion Shiro. He shares that his father is away, summoned by the king as a reward. Rain reflects on how Vincent is no longer consumed by paranoia and fear. His father now openly engages in discussions with him. Hostility vanished. Rain observes his father conducting inspections and discussing tax matters. He considers his father's more thorough and engaged reports to the crown. With a knowing smile, Rain notes his father is checking the tomato farm. He remembers how the blacksmith Watts offered his father a new sword. Watts jokingly referred to the weapon as a fitting demon sword for him. Vincent accepted the gift, his expression a mix of confusion and complexity. Rain concludes that meeting Ellie was the pivotal moment for his father. That encounter prompted him to finally apologize and start healing. Yet Ryan senses that the deeper issues remain unresolved. He feels a knot of anxiety about his own impending summons from the king. To clear his mind, he opts to patrol the forest with Shiro. As they enter the woods, Rusty notices the sun dipping below the horizon. He urges Shiro to pick up the pace, wanting to return before darkness falls. Shiro dashes ahead with incredible speed, splattering rain onto its fur. Rain yells in a mix of panic and frustration at the sudden burst of speed. The great beast races through the forest, a blur of white energy. Suddenly, Rain's eyes widen as he spots an unexpected figure ahead. The long-eared elf stands firm, encircled by a pack of threatening wolves. The elf warrior appears weary, dark wounds marring her cheek and arm. Rain is entranced by her defiant and self-assured demeanor. The elf grits her teeth in frustration as Shiro emits a low growl. Ellie, who had trailed behind, gasps in shock at the tense standoff. Rain springs into action, his face set with determination. He instructs Shiro to move closer and unleash its powerful magic. Shiro responds with a low, rumbling growl to his command. Rain leaps off Shiro's back as the beast lets out a thunderous roar. The sound creates a shockwave that reverberates through the clearing. The enemy wolves are thrown into disarray, yelping in fear and confusion. Even the elf and her companions are staggered by the sonic blast. Rain lands gracefully, a confident grin spreading across his face. He commends Shiro for the impressive and effective display of power. The great wolf leans into the praise, relishing the affection from its master. The duo approaches the elf they just saved in the clearing. Rain's earlier bravado fades as he cautiously steps toward her. He extends a hand, asking if she's okay, but she slaps it away. She snarls at him, her face a mask of deep-rooted distrust and anger. Rain freezes, utterly shocked into silence by her aggressive response. The elf demands to know why a Fenrir is accompanying a human. Shiro, unaware of the tension, tilts its head and gives a curious woof. A solitary wolf howls at the bright moon outlined against a rocky summit. The location stirs a vague recollection for Rain, reminiscent of falling in a library. The wolf Shiro muses that Fenrir is a name far too impressive for him. Shiro lounges in the forest glade, wearing a slightly dazed, puzzled look. Rain and Shiro face each other, sharing a moment of silent evaluation. An enraged elf girl storms in, demanding Rain stop pitying the wolf. A close-up of Rain's eye shows his shock at her abrupt arrival. His gaze lands on a dark, messy gash on the elf girl's arm. He points out her serious injury, but she snaps at him to be quiet. The elf girl, Leah, can't believe a human would attempt to tame a Fenrir. After Shiro licks Rain's face, Rain clarifies he was merely trying to assist her. A hand reaches upward as a strange, glowing magical force envelops the area. Rain and Leah are suddenly lifted off the ground, leaving Leah utterly astonished. Leah watches in confusion as the unseen force gently places Rain on Shiro's back. Rain shows his bandaged arm, assuring her that he has already treated his injury. He calmly tells her to relax as his bleeding has completely ceased. Jumping onto Shiro, Rain gets ready to depart, vowing not to use any spells. Leah watches him leave, bewildered by his unusual chantless display of magic. Rain declares his peaceful intentions, stating he will now be on his way. A complex array of emotions flits across Leah's face as she observes him leave. As they walk away, Leah suddenly shouts for them to wait, sprinting after them. Shiro and Rain turn to see the determined elf girl approaching them. Catching her breath, Leah repeats her request for them to wait, her expression serious. Beneath the starry sky, Leah starts to apologize for her earlier aggressive behavior. She bows her head, offering a heartfelt apology for her rudeness towards her savior. She explains that a forest wolf attacked her, and her companions abandoned her. She gazes at Rain, her gratitude now intertwined with the painful memory of her trauma. Rain questions why, despite the attack, she had been so suspicious of him. Leah begins to share their dark past, suggesting a human child might not grasp it. A flashback reveals elves in chains as she recounts how humans once enslaved her kin. She states that elves are taught humans are malevolent, a belief she doesn't dispute. Raina astutely notes that her actions indicate she now recognizes there are exceptions. Embarrassed, Leah and Rain start walking together through the forest, newfound understanding between them. She suggests that since he was left behind, he should introduce himself first. With a gentle smile, she introduces herself as Leah, an elf from this woodland. Rains returns the smile, introducing himself as Rinford Proud Road, son of the local baron. He explains that he has been given the responsibility of managing this very forest. As they walk, a panting Rain asks if they are moving away from the exit. A mental map confirms his fears. He worries he needs to return home soon. Leah asks where he thinks they are headed, stating they are going to her village. Rain is completely baffled by her vague response, questioning where she is leading him. Leah grabs him and starts pulling him along, insisting he accept her gratitude. Rain protests loudly, anxious about his mother and how his absence will impact his father. He begs to visit her village tomorrow, and she seems to briefly consider it. Leah's expression changes, her earlier contemplation now entirely vanished. She calls out his name, her face indicating she is about to do something impulsive. With a powerful shove, she sends him soaring through the air. She yells after him not to be so distant, urging him to simply call her Leah. The force of her push is tremendous, sending him helplessly across the clearing. Rain screams in fear, convinced he is about to crash into a gigantic tree. As he moves through it, the tree's image shimmers and fades away. He steps out, realizing he has traversed a formidable illusion. Eyes wide, he recognizes the illusion as a potent barrier spell. He crashes to the ground, dazed by the whole ordeal. He shakes his head, muttering that her tactics were rather harsh. Looking up, he spots a stunning village nestled among towering ancient trees. In awe, he murmurs that this must be the fabled elf village. His amazement is abruptly interrupted as two sharp spears are aimed at his throat. Two elven guards seize him, demanding to know what a human is doing there. One elf rushes off for backup while Rain anxiously pleads for them to hold on. Leah hurries forward, urgently trying to clarify that Rain is her benefactor. An arrow is shot from the shadows, slicing through the air with lethal speed. A concealed archer takes aim from the trees, her concentration unwavering. With practiced precision, the archer releases the arrow toward its target. Ryan flinches as the arrow whizzes past his cheek, aimed straight at Shiro. The arrow shatters against an unseen barrier shielding the great wolf. The projectile disintegrates, its force completely neutralized by the shield. The elven attackers stare in disbelief, unable to grasp the magical defense. Shiro bares its teeth, emitting a low, threatening growl at the assailants. The elves gasp in shock, recognizing the divine beast Fenrir among them. Leah positions herself in front of Rain, commanding the elves to cease their assault. An elder challenges her, questioning why a human would assist an elf. Leah watches, exasperated and desperate, asking why they refuse to trust her. Elf-elder steps forward, his presence demanding the attention of the crowd. The tension breaks as a young elf girl, Lulu, joyfully hugs Leah. The other elves observe the reunion, puzzled by Leah's defense of the human. Leah holds the young girl, her face still marked with concern over the situation. A regal woman appears, and the elves are informed she is Leah's benefactor. She commands the attention of everyone present, her presence formidable. She expresses her apologies on behalf of the villagers for their rude behavior. A close-up reveals her lips as she completes her formal apology to Rain. She stands next to another elf woman, Elle, who bears a striking resemblance. Rain observes the two, noting that Elle looks just like Leah. The scene transitions to the inside of a cozy wooden elven dwelling. A steaming cup of tea is set before Rain at a large table. He sits with the benefactor and other elves, feeling swept up in the unfolding events. He worries about what to say if they ask him to leave. Taking a sip from the cup, his eyes widen in surprise at the flavor. He exclaims that the tea is incredibly delicious, a comforting delight. He relishes the refreshing aroma and the drink's subtle sweetness. He finds himself wishing he could enjoy this tea back in his own realm. Elle leans in, her expression inscrutable and her gaze piercing. She comments that she's pleased he seems to be enjoying the tea. Her tone shifts, becoming more serious and almost menacing. She inquires if he ever thought the tea might be poisoned. Rain recalls the hostility the elves displayed upon his arrival in the village. He reflects on their evident wariness and wonders if he was too trusting. The benefactor laughs heartily at his innocent and trusting perspective. Ryan explains he trusted them because Leah is his friend, so he couldn't doubt her people. His straightforward, unblemished trust seems to have completely disarmed the elven leader. With a hearty laugh, the elder elf proclaims that Rain's genuine nature is commendable. She reflects on how rare it is for people to act on their convictions, teasing him playfully. Leah, another elf, lets out a frustrated sigh, urging the elder to cease her teasing. Elle scolds the elder for her mischievous humor, while Rain offers a flustered apology. Spotting Leah, Elle comments on how unusual it is for her to bring a human to their home. The elder's expression shifts to seriousness as she formally expresses gratitude to Reinfurt for rescuing their kin. Bren, taken aback by the formality, humbly insists he did nothing extraordinary. He clarifies that it was his companion, Shiro, who truly saved Leia from the wolves. The elder smiles, assuring him that modesty is unnecessary. Their meeting is destiny. She discloses that the wolves are not indigenous and a formidable demonic force is rising. Rain echoes her words, his interest piqued by the mention of a formidable demonic force. Her voice reveals that the source lies deep within the ominous shadowy forest. She names the ancient threat, a name that carries immense significance, an ancient dragon. The young boy utters the words ancient dragon, his expression a mix of shock and wonder. With a grave and assured look, the elder affirms his astonished repetition. The room's atmosphere thickens, heavy with the weight of the tale being told. Rain observes the sudden tense silence, feeling as if he's in a grim business meeting. His thoughts drift back to the tense environment of his previous life in the corporate world. Leah comments on the grand and imposing resonance of the name Ancient Dragon. Attempting to lighten the mood, Rain agrees that the name itself sounds incredibly impressive. Leah glares, irritated that he finds it cool just because it's a name. He inquires if the dragon is typically dormant, noting that its awakening suggests a prior slumber. Leah and Al exchange glances, the weight of their people's legends settling heavily upon them. Leah begins to recount the oral traditions passed down through their ancestors. She reveals that the dragon has been in slumber for 2,000 years, a figure that astonishes Rain. His mind races, realizing there was no mention of this in his father's library. Leah continues, indicating that there is more to the tale. The legend foretells that upon awakening, the dragon will cast the world into turmoil. The scene outside the window reinforces the dark and oppressive tone of the narrative. A heavy silence envelops the room, the weight of the prophecy pressing down on them. The focus shifts across the table, highlighting the tense and silent atmosphere. Ren murmurs the words, a crisis for the entire world, struggling to comprehend the magnitude. He feels the topic is too vast for him to fully grasp, then notices Leah has fallen asleep. Someone asks the elder if she has a millennium to spare, to which she replies she does not. Leah admits that the legend hasn't been transmitted with perfect accuracy. Ryan points out that this premise makes the atmosphere in the room feel even heavier. Shiro yawns widely as if to suggest that even they are unaware of the complete story. The elder wistfully confesses that she should say she never truly knew the entire truth. She explains that elves have passed down history orally, unlike humans who rely on books and monuments. She acknowledges that even so, a gap of 2,000 years creates a sense of dissonance. The elder turns to Rain, asking what he believes is the reason for this discrepancy. He thoughtfully repeats her question, contemplating the cause of the time gap. She claps her hands, delivering the chilling answer. The dragon is awakening prematurely. Linnell looks on with grim, worried expressions at this unsettling revelation. Rain jokingly theorizes that someone might have stolen a gem that was sealing the dragon away. He continues, suggesting that someone shattered a hidden crystal that kept it in slumber. Leah smiles, amused as Rain wonders if the elves themselves did something they shouldn't have. The elder confidently asserts that her people would never engage in such actions. She insists that no one in the village has the power to tamper with such forces. Her expression darkens as she reveals that an orc king has been sighted near the village. This being is a unique variant, a walking disaster far exceeding any ordinary monster. The elven woman starts to describe the grave circumstances, believing her kin are foes to everyone. She clarifies that their only option was to build a strong barrier, isolating themselves. She remembers how Lulu's parents fell victim to a rampaging beast during their investigation. She also recalls Leah being attacked by a vicious Fenrir while she was foraging for herbs. Raising a finger, she gets ready to present her theory based on these incidents. Her hypothesis starts with the dormant ancient dragon. She theorizes it was stirred by a colossal, formless energy it instinctively reacted to. Ren murmurs comprehends as the pieces of the puzzle start to align. He realizes the situation is much more intricate than just an Orc King-level threat. Leah and the cloaked girl turn to him, their eyes filled with intense anticipation. He feels flustered, questioning why they are gazing at him so intensely. A sudden realization strikes him like a lightning bolt. He grasps that the overwhelming power the dragon reacted to was his own. His companion Shiro seems to affirm this with a subtle nod. Rain grins sheepishly, confessing that it's certainly a tough thing for him to admit. The elder inquires if he has finally caught on, as the other elves blush in understanding. He acknowledges they drop plenty of hints for him to piece it together. He then inquires if there are any elven tales about dealing with a dragon. The two elven women appear troubled, their faces reflecting uncertainty and gloom. The elder apologizes, admitting she lacks a specific answer for him. Rain ponders this dilemma, questioning if there's any chance of winning a battle. The cloaked elf shrugs in despair, as if to indicate the situation is hopeless. The elder explains that throughout her long life, she has never heard of anyone defeating a dragon. She describes its unbreakable hide, crushing jaws, and a breath that incinerates. After listening closely, Rain makes a decision and suggests a plan of action. The cloaked elf is taken aback, asking if he has a solid idea to resolve this. With a confident glimmer in his eye, Rain proposes they attempt dialogue with the involved parties. The elves are left speechless, questioning the logic of trying to converse with a dragon. Embracing his wolf companion, Ryan excitedly announces they'll speak with their Shiro. He dramatically points at Shiro, revealing that the wolf is actually the dragon. Leah and Elsa's faces twist into identical expressions of sheer, unfiltered shock. An awkward silence descends as Shiro looks on, puzzled while the girls are breathless. Rain, misinterpreting their astonishment, asks if they were referring to him instead. The girls insist it must be him. There's no one else it could possibly be. He is taken aback, stammering in utter confusion at their claim. He vehemently denies it, insisting he's just an ordinary, adorable 10-year-old boy. The elder begins to present the evidence from her recent inquiries. She mentions a massive, unnatural crater, causing Rain to flinch in recognition. She continues detailing an unusually solid wall of earth, making Rain flinch once more. Finally, she reveals she sensed a tremendous magical force, leaving Rain cringing in defeat. The elder concludes that these are undeniable facts, leaving no room for doubt. The dormant dragon was stirred by the sudden emergence of this potent, strange magic. She asks if he has any excuses, but he can only acknowledge his guilt. Defeated, he slumps onto the table, contemplating if he has no option but to fight. He suddenly looks up, questioning how large a dragon is supposed to be. The elder thoughtfully recalls the ancient tales passed down through the ages. The legend states the settlement is overshadowed by the beast, which she exclaims is far too large. Outside, the atmosphere begins to shift as the rain starts to lessen. The elder observes the rain diminishing and decides to postpone their meeting until tomorrow. Tanya, the elder elf, concludes that it's too late to carry on and decides to delay their conversation. As she walks away, she advises Rain to come up with a solid plan for them. She rests a hand on his shoulder, conveying her trust in him. Beneath the full moon, Rain feels the weight of expectation, pondering his options. Later, Rain strolls alongside the elf girl, Leah, on a rocky trail under the stars. Ren reflects on the challenge of devising a strategy. He inquires if Leah can guide him to an inn, suggesting he could camp if necessary. Leah gazes at him earnestly, asserting that he will be staying at her home. Rain, taken aback, questions her straightforwardness and her old-fashioned manner. His thoughts spiral at the daunting prospect of staying at a girl's place for the first time. Leah, slightly blushing, asks if he has an issue with her invitation. Rain quickly insists there's no problem, his face flushed with embarrassment. He stutters about not wanting to inconvenience her family, but she reassures him. As she walks ahead, Leah reveals her family was killed by humans long ago. Rain stares in disbelief at her sudden and heartbreaking confession. A haunting memory surfaces, showing her people enslaved and slaughtered after their magic was drained. Leah apologizes for the grim subject as they stand on the stony path. She admits that, like many, she once held a deep-seated hatred for humans. A soft, grateful smile graces her lips as she gazes at Rain. She confesses that despite her past, he is the one who saved her. Leah now understands that not all humans are bad, like Rain. Touched by her words, Rain can only whisper her name. With arms wide open, Leah joyfully proclaims that her entire village is her beloved family. She turns to Rain, urging him not to wear such a sorrowful expression. Acknowledging her village's skepticism, she vows to be his protector this time. Rain is visibly moved and flustered by her heartfelt promise. A jealous shout for Leah Summer interrupts them as a younger elf girl rushes in. Leah turns to see the young elf, Rolls, hurrying toward them with a flushed face. A flashback reveals a younger smiling Rolls walking with Leah and a boy. In the memory, Rolls explains she is out for a walk with her father. The boy politely thanks Leah for always looking after Rolls. Leah starts to brush off the gratitude, but the name Lars pops into her mind. A serious adult elf with a wooden prosthetic leg, Lars, approaches them. Rolls recognizes Rain, asking if he is the small human she has heard about. With her arms crossed, she reluctantly expresses her thanks to him. Rain humbly replies that he didn't do anything remarkable, just happened to be there. Rolls scolds him for being a 10-year-old wandering the forest alone. She indignantly asserts that she is actually 52 years old, not a child. Realizing her blunder, she shouts that she is not his older sister. Rain deduces from her flustered reaction that she won't reveal her true age. He decides to tease her about her youthful appearance. He points out that no matter her age, she still resembles a child. Rolls erupts in anger, calling him a cheeky human child for his insolence. The two face off, bickering with a charged intensity. Lars steps between them, placing a hand on Rain's shoulder to quiet him. He tells Rain that while he appreciates him saving Leah, he dislikes his kind. Lars bluntly states his hatred for humans and questions what Rain was doing with Leah. Rolls nervously asks why Leah would associate with someone like him. Lars's expression darkens with suspicion as Leah watches with a serious demeanor. Another elf woman intervenes, insisting Rain is her benefactor and urging Lars to back off. The woman sincerely apologizes to Rain for their earlier confrontation. Rules declares it's time for departure, taking Lars along. Leah warns Lars to be careful as he leaves with the group. Rain observes their exit, reflecting on the elves' contempt for humans. Alone on the path, he contemplates the intense hatred he just witnessed. He realizes the elf clan's animosity towards humans runs deep. It dawns on him that Lars is Rulch's father, injured during a monster hunt. Leah considers Lars's frustration with his body that no longer obeys him. A wave of helplessness washes over her. She can do nothing for him. Her hand tightens as she recalls the dragon that had appeared. She vows to fight until the end, unafraid of death. What truly terrifies her is the thought of losing her dear friends. The idea of being utterly alone if they perish is unbearable. Ren's voice breaks through her dark thoughts, calling her name. He points out her hand is bleeding from her tight grip. He assures her he will heal the wound, his gaze resolute. Leah looks at him surprised, softly uttering his name. Ryan inquires if there are other injured villagers apart from Lars. Leah confirms there are many others suffering from injuries. A plan forms in Rain's mind. He asks if they can gather the injured. Leah stares at him, utterly confused, questioning his intentions. Rain bows his head respectfully, formally asking her to gather the wounded. Soon, the ghostly figures of the entire village assemble in a moonlit square. An injured elf grumbles about being summoned by a human child at night. Ryan steps onto the stage, ready to address the hostile audience. He starts by sincerely apologizing for gathering everyone so late. His voice resonates clear and steady as he prepares to continue. The crowd erupts in fury, threatening him and accusing Leah of manipulation. Rolls watches nervously from the side, asking Leah if Rain will be okay. An aggressive elf confronts Rain, demanding to know his intentions. Rain turns to Leah, offering a reassuring smile, telling her not to fret. He gives her a confident wink, his expression bright and playful. He declares his desire to resolve their conflict and become friends, flustering Leo. Clearing his throat, he begins his formal introduction to the assembly. He announces he is the eldest son of the baronet family overseeing the forest. The elves are outraged that a human brat claims authority over their sacred land. The crowd shouts, rejecting the kingdom's authority and human governance. The elves' anger and disbelief are evident as they dismiss his claim. Amidst the uproar, Rain's expression shifts to seriousness as he senses something. He realizes someone nearby is chanting a potent wind magic spell. A surge of magical energy suddenly erupts on stage with a sharp crack. A colossal shadowy Fenrir appears, its eyes glowing with malice. The elven crowd screams in terror at the sight of the divine beast. Ryan's companion Shiro appears, growling fiercely at the magical entity. Rain calmly pets Shiro's head, thanking him and soothing him. The crowd murmurs in shock, questioning how he controls the Fenrir so effortlessly. Rain raises a hand to continue his speech, his composure completely intact. He states that the forest's issues impact his family and all humans too. Gazing towards the dark forest, he prepares to present his grand proposal. He suggests that elves and humans should collaborate to tackle the crisis. A cluster of elves, one sporting a bandaged head, gazes with blank, astonished faces. From an elevated platform, an elf with spiky hair vehemently rejects the earlier proposal. He scoffs at the thought of collaboration, doubting what a mere human child could achieve. Rain stands before the unfriendly crowd, his demeanor composed and his breath steady. He admits humbly that he isn't sure if he can assist with the dragon crisis. Yet, with resolute eyes, he confidently asserts that he can heal them all. A dazzling white light bursts from Rain, enveloping the entire assembly of elves. The elves in attendance cry out, stunned and blinded by the overwhelming brilliance. The light radiates outward, a potent wave of healing energy sweeping across the clearing. Leah observes Rain, realizing he's using the same healing magic he applied to her. She continues to watch, pondering how he could possibly heal so many at once. Another elf girl panics, convinced it's impossible to heal everyone present. With tears brimming in her eyes, Leah questions why he would go to such lengths for them. As if sensing her thoughts, Rain explains that he's helping her family because they are friends. He looks at her, asking if there's any reason needed to assist a friend's family. Leah is left utterly speechless by his straightforward and profound expression of friendship. Overwhelmed, her hands clench into tight fist as she processes his remarkable kindness. She thinks of her beloved family while watching Rain on the stage. Tears streaming down her cheeks, she fervently begs him to save them. Rain smiles gently, responding to her heartfelt request with a simple, confident yes. The healing light grows brighter, shooting up into the night sky like a brilliant column. A tangible shift sweeps through the crowd as the miraculous magic takes hold. An elf with a heavily bandaged leg gasps, feeling sensation return to his wiggling toes. All around, elves shout in joy as their serious injuries heal before their eyes. The once furious leader weeps with gratitude, pondering who this remarkable boy could be. The village elder El calls out to Rain as he stands among the healed elves. She approaches him, demanding to know if the powerful magic was his doing. Rain sheepishly starts to apologize for acting without her prior consent. El quickly interrupts, insisting that his apology isn't what concerns her. She gazes at him, still trying to grasp the immense magical power he possesses. Suddenly, Rain senses a new immense presence lurking in the distant forest. Exclaiming that he's found it, he propels himself into the shadowy woods. In a moonlit clearing, he confronts a colossal winged dragon. He breaks the tension with a wink, cheerfully introducing himself as a 26-year-old from Earth. The dragon's disembodied voice scoffs, calling him a cheeky country boy favored by a goddess. The beast questions the odd timing of his peculiar introduction. Rain stands firm, bracing himself for the impending confrontation. The dragon looms over him, exuding an ancient and terrifying power. He grimly smiles, explaining that there's no guarantee he'll survive to say it later. Back in the village, Leah's body begins to disintegrate into dark energy particles. A shadowy tendril forms, carrying the dragon's command to come and be consumed. The dark energy streaks swiftly through the air toward Ryan's location. The dragon opens its maw, ready to devour the energy to fulfill its pact. It mentions an ancient agreement made with a small elf elder long ago. The beast declares that the old contract is finally on the verge of being fulfilled. Leah, now restored but shaken, watches with a grim understanding. She confronts the dragon, questioning the so-called pact or agreement. Leah grows frustrated, exclaiming that she doesn't comprehend the dragon at all. The dragon condescendingly dismisses the pact as an ancient tale from millennia past. It tells her that after so long, the true meaning has likely been forgotten. The dragon bellows, demanding her to cease her pointless rambling and be quiet. The other elf girl shares that she sensed a powerful surge of magic earlier. The dragon discloses that the pack requested a tribute of vast magical energy. Bryn's eyes widen as the chilling realization begins to dawn on him. The other elf girl panics, accusing Rain of being the intended offering. Leah screams in rage at her ally for inadvertently betraying Rain. The dragon ponders aloud, questioning if this mere human is indeed its offering. Its enormous eye examines the boy, detecting his vast magical potential. The elves bicker among themselves, one insisting there's no turning back now. The dragon concurs, observing that Rain wields a power uncharacteristic of a human. It concludes that this power explains why the young Fenrir is drawn to him. Ryan steps forward, his demeanor composed as he gets ready to speak. He introduces himself formally, mentioning that being devoured would be quite inconvenient. With a serene smile, he graciously declines the role of sacrifice. The dragon's jaws open wide, demanding to know if he intends to break their agreement. Ryan recoils, visibly shaken by the dragon's fearsome presence. The beast dismisses his insignificant human feelings, focusing solely on his defiance. It scoffs at the notion that he dislikes their current arrangement. With a thunderous roar, it threatens to unleash slow, agonizing torment upon him. Its colossal tail lashes through the air in a devastating, swift arc. Rain's eyes widen in fear, realizing the grave peril he faces. He understands that a direct hit would mean certain death upon impact. A shockwave tears through the forest, splintering trees in its wake. The boy and his wolf companion are flung through the air. They are propelled through the thick woods at an unbelievable speed. The world becomes a chaotic blur as they crash through the foliage. He lands heavily, groaning in pain, grateful that his protective magic held. He is astonished by the sheer destructive power of the dragon's strike. A familiar sensation triggers memories of the time he was struck by a truck. His thoughts flash to the lush, fertile lands he helped nurture. He recalls the smiling faces of the family he has grown to cherish. In despair, he fears that this might be the end of his life once more. He awakens to find his massive wolf companion Shiro lying next to him. He weakly calls out to Shiro, who gazes at him with concern. Shiro emits a soft whimper, gently nudging the boy's cheek. The simple, affectionate gesture cuts through his daze, grounding him. He cries out his companion's name, a mix of relief and alarm in his voice. Shiro's strength falters, and the great wolf collapses to the ground. Rain realizes with horror that Shiro broke his fall, absorbing the impact. He sits beside his unconscious friend, overwhelmed by this selfless act. He understands that Shiro was worried about him despite its own severe injuries. With a shaking hand, he affectionately calls his friend an idiot for his sacrifice. His voice trembles as he repeats the word, flooded with emotion. Tears stream down his face, realizing Shiro did this for someone like him. He gently rests a hand on Shiro's back, his expression hardening. He tells his friend to rest for a bit, a silent vow in his gesture. Rising to his feet, he swears to defeat the dragon, his resolve unwavering. He strides back toward the beast, declaring he won't be a coward any longer. He scoffs at the thought that a Fenrir's life could be crushed so easily. He pushes that thought aside, knowing the real challenge is protecting what matters. With a furious roar, the young boy calls out the dragon's name. He releases a colossal swirling vortex of pure magical energy aimed at his enemy. The potent spell crashes into the giant dragon's armored chest. Rain clenches his teeth, realizing his powerful strike has landed. Reeling back, the dragon understands this level of attack won't bring it down. The creature grudgingly admires the human child's unexpected tenacity. A vivid memory of rigorous sword training flashes in Ryan's focused mind. He remembers the pained expressions of his friends from their earlier fight. A brilliant pulsating sphere of concentrated light forms in his outstretched palm. He wonders if this new attack can pierce the dragon's tough scales. The dragon glances up, its eyes widening in shock at the new threat. Rain launches the glowing orb through the air with astonishing speed. The sphere crashes into the ground before the dragon with tremendous force. A massive concave crater is instantly formed in the shattered terrain. He vows to protect his land and people from the beast's wrath. Furious, the dragon vows to make the boy pay for his defiance. Rain boldly asserts that he will be the one to settle this score. Against a cosmic backdrop, the boy and dragon confront each other in a legendary arena. From the forest, an elder elf inquires if her companion, Riria, has witnessed this. Riria confirms she has, her eyes glued to the extraordinary clash. The elder wonders just how many magical traits Rain might possess. She notes in awe that he previously used a mere puff of air. The elder is astonished that he wields such powerful magic without incantations. Her eyes narrow as she recalls another astonishing feat he just executed. She identifies the fiery tornado as an impossible fusion of magic. Even elves can't merge two attributes without risking their own bodies. She questions how such a feat is achievable, regardless of his skill. Riria agrees, believing this display of power shouldn't be possible. The elder admits she can't fathom the depths of his vast magical power. She concludes that his abilities belong to a realm of myth and legend. Elder Riley observes that it's no wonder an ancient dragon was drawn out. Riria whispers Rain's name, her voice laced with deep concern. Her anxiety grows as she watches the battle unfold before her. The dragon prepares to unleash a devastating blast of energy from its mouth. Rin stands firm on the fractured ground, facing the enormous beast. He knows his strikes inflict damage, but they aren't lethal yet. A new strategy begins to form in his mind as he spots an opening. The dragon releases its breath, a blinding torrent of raw energy. Rain is forced to slide back, digging his heels in against the onslaught. He grimaces, realizing the battle is draining his magical reserves. He remembers the reckless healing spell he cast on the entire elven village. The dragon tests his limits, questioning how long his magic can endure. It stands majestically at the edge of the crater Rain created. The beast comments that Rain appears to have nothing left to give. With a confident grin, Ryan concedes that he won't deny it. The dragon is amused by his candor, stating that it likes him. It decides to conclude the duel with its secret technique as a gesture of respect. A complex, glowing magic circle appears within the dragon's maw. Rain grits his teeth, bracing himself for the impending assault. The dragon prepares to stomp the ground with its enormous foot. Rain is hit by a bizarre vision of a faceless crowd. The dragon's footfall sends shockwaves, fracturing the ground. The elder elf identifies the technique, questioning if it's truly using its horns. Massive rocky spikes burst from the earth, aimed at Rain. The entire terrain morphs into a lethal forest of rising stone spears. The dragon ascends, its body brimming with the horns it now wields. At the same time, it starts to gather energy for its final catastrophic blast. The magic circle within its mouth glows with immense concentrated energy. The great beast begins to emanate its full, unrestrained power. Rain senses the immediate and dire threat of the situation. He observes magical energy coalescing in the formation with astonishing force. He realizes this isn't just dragon breath, but a unique inherent magic. He understands there's no time for hesitation or further thought. A moment's delay could spell his doom. He envisions a shield of light, knowing he must layer it for survival. Multiple layers of the radiant shield materialize before him. The dragon acknowledges its fear, admitting it would be a lie to say otherwise. A fleeting vision reveals the beast once curled protectively around a young Rain. Rain swears he won't be defeated, determined to return to Shiro and his family. The dragon unleashes its ultimate attack, a concentrated beam of pure energy. The beam crashes into Rain's layered shield, resulting in a blinding explosion. The dragon's gaze is fixed on the impact point, intensifying the pressure. Rain's expression is one of sheer determination as he stands firm. The two colossal forces are locked in a fierce battle for supremacy. Fine cracks begin to spiderweb across the surface of the outer shield. Rain strains, shouting that his magical power isn't enough to hold. Suddenly, he feels a strange new energy rising from below. He grits his teeth, resisting the overwhelming force. A fierce gust of wind erupts, swirling powerfully around him. He glances at his hands in astonishment, recognizing it as wind magic. The newfound power strengthens his stance, aiding him against the blast. He calls out for his companions, Shiro and Zranja, sensing their presence. The ethereal form of the great wolf appears, pushing back alongside him. Rain's face contorts with the sheer effort of the magical struggle. He shouts words of encouragement to Shiro, urging them to press on. The dragon's powerful beam continues its unyielding assault. Rain notices the dragon's magic waning, but he lacks the strength to counter. Suddenly, a fresh surge of energy courses through Rain's body. He realizes, to his shock, that his magical reserves have slightly replenished. A voice calls his name from the forest, revealing Ruria's form. Ruria leads the elves, their hands joined in prayer, channeling energy. The entire elven village is pouring their collective magic into him. Rain's eyes widen as he comprehends they are sharing their power. Ruria cries his name again, tears of desperation streaming down her cheeks. A fire of resolve ignites within him. He can't waste this opportunity. He commands himself to envision an endless, perfectly blue sky. High above, billions of microscopic ice particles collide within the clouds. Caught in powerful updrafts, they build an incredible static charge. The dragon looks up, puzzled, wondering what its opponent is scheming. Rain smirks, explaining that the dragon's hard, metallic body is its Achilles heel. Rain confidently asserts that the dragon's tough hide resembles metal. The dragon, bewildered, glances upward, sensing a significant change in the battle's dynamics. It gazes at the sky in disbelief, questioning if it's witnessing the fabled arrows from above. Rain smirks, proclaiming that the dragon's own steel-like body has turned into its greatest vulnerability. With a victorious shout, he casts his spell, unleashing a storm of lightning upon the beast. The sky crackles with raw energy as the relentless celestial assault continues. Amidst the swirling smoke, a concerned Leah whispers Rain's name anxiously. Horrified, she covers her mouth, pondering the dragon's ultimate fate. Her fear culminates in a choked sob as she envisions the worst possible scenario. In shock, her hand reaches out into the dust-laden air. Through the haze, she spots Rain leaning against Shiro and cries out his name in relief. A quiet calm envelops the devastated battlefield. The fierce battle finally concludes. Leaning against his companion, Rain exhales with a weary smile, expressing his fatigue. Overcome with emotion, Leah rushes in and tackles Rain in a desperate embrace. Surprised by the sudden impact, Rain grunts, commenting on her weight. Leah sobs with pure relief, expressing her joy that he is safe. After regaining her composure, she apologizes for causing him worry, and he thanks her for her care. Ryan gazes at the vanquished dragon, acknowledging that the battle was indeed reckless. He marvels at having survived a confrontation with such a colossal creature. A memory of the dragon's massive, scaly form flashes in his mind. The elf elder Tanya approaches with a sly smile, teasing them about their affectionate exchange. Leah jumps back, flustered and blushing, insisting their interaction was misinterpreted. Tanya continues her playful teasing, congratulating Leah on her remarkable victory over the dragon. She then gestures toward Rain, calling him an impressive and intense boy for his feat. Humbly, Rain attempts to deflect the praise, raising a hand in protest. He sheepishly admits he anticipated this outcome because he overlooked something. He formally takes Tanya's hand, standing respectfully before her and the other elves. With genuine gratitude, he thanks everyone for sharing their magical strength. He sincerely states that without their assistance, he doubts he would have triumphed. Tanya is surprised by his formality, questioning why he is being so courteous. The elf Lars grips Rain's shoulders, insisting they should be the ones expressing gratitude. He meets Rain's gaze, stating that he fought to safeguard their sacred forest. Lars explains that without Rain, they would have all been devoured by the fearsome creature. On behalf of the forest deity, he extends their deepest thanks to Rain Prodrode. Overwhelmed by the solemn gesture, Ryan blushes and waves his hands in denial. As the entire elven community bows in unison, he pleads with them not to. Surrounded by the appreciative elves, he smiles, explaining they are neighbors who support one another. Lars smiles warmly, commenting on how much Rain has changed since their harsh first encounter. He ruffles the boy's hair as Rain bashfully insists he's just an average person. The group shares a laugh as Tanya playfully inquires which of them Leah finds more charming. Rain's expression shifts to seriousness as a new question arises in his mind. He asks the elves if the magic they bestowed upon him was a unique type of spell. Tanya clarifies it's a method for transferring mana, but it requires a special core. She holds up a pendant, revealing a dark, smooth stone suspended from a simple cord. Rain's eyes widen as he recognizes it, asking if it is indeed a magic stone. Leah examines the pendant, her expression indicating that something is amiss. Rain notes that the stone has lost its shine and now appears dull and dark. Tanya confirms it is a cherished elven magic stone capable of storing immense energy. She explains its color has altered because they transferred all its stored energy to him. With a sigh, she adds that it will likely take several centuries to gradually recharge. Rain takes the pendant from her grasp, ready to make his move. With a confident grin, he channels his magic into the dull stone. Leah and Tanya gasp, utterly stunned by his sudden, unbelievable act. Rain beams, showcasing the now radiant and brilliantly glowing pendant. Leah confronts him, demanding to know how he has mana when he claimed to be out. Her eyes widen in disbelief as she gazes at the pendant, now shimmering with power. The three elves observe as Rain calmly attempts to clarify his swift recovery. The other elf girl is so taken aback that she covers her face. Leah questions if he's some kind of monster or a pervert. He simply calls her rude. He shares his odd envy for the elven vulnerability to mana loss. Realizing how strange his fascination sounds, he decides to keep quiet. As they walk back, Leah ponders Rain's mysterious nature regarding his quick recovery. They near the spot where the enormous, motionless dragon lies. Rain turns to Leah, inquiring if he can handle the dragon. She hesitates, questioning how one boy could possibly deal with such a massive body. A soft, ethereal glow begins to rise from the ground near the fallen beast. Leah and the villagers stare, mouths agape as the light grows stronger. Soon the entire clearing is illuminated by a sparkling, otherworldly glow. Rain calmly reveals that he had planned this during their battle. He watches with a tranquil smile as his plan starts to take shape. A sudden twitch ripples through the dragon's massive form, hinting at impossible life. Its eye snaps open, releasing a tremendous yet non-threatening roar. Leon Rain stares in stunned silence, struggling to grasp the situation. The colossal dragon begins to shake violently, drool dripping from its jaws. It thinks to itself how it has never experienced such rich and delicious mana. Overwhelmed with joy, the ancient beast emits a deep, satisfied purr. It rubs its enormous head against the ground in delight, like a giant house cat. Rain smiles, casually noting that it's nice to see the dragon feeling better. A quiet moment passes as the beast revels in its overwhelming bliss. It turns to Rain, questioning why he healed his defeated foe and his motives. Ren contemplates the question, a thoughtful and slightly sheepish look on his face. He raises 2 fingers, stating he has his reasons for healing the creature. The dragon listens closely, its massive gaze locked on the small boy. Rand begins his explanation, raising a single finger for his first point. He mentions that the dragon intentionally shifted its position to protect the village. The onlookers realize he's correct. The dragon never aimed to destroy their homes. For his second point, Rain asserts that the dragon wasn't using its full strength. Leah is utterly shocked by this revelation, struggling to believe her ears. Rain urges her to consider it, a gentle, knowing smile on his face. He explains that if the dragon had been serious, it could have wiped them out instantly. He adds that its earlier breath attack was also not at full power. With a confident grin, he asks if it could have unleashed a much stronger blast. The dragon averts its gaze, grumbling in a moment of draconic embarrassment. It admits that had it gotten serious, the entire continent would have been obliterated. Leah then inquires about the final, third reason behind Rain's surprising actions. The 2 small figures stand before the colossal, now calm and respectful dragon. Rain blushes slightly, confessing that his final reason isn't particularly profound. He looks up at the beast and simply states that there's no reason for it to die. The ancient dragon is rendered speechless by the sheer, unadorned compassion in his words. It lowers its head in genuine concession, acknowledging that this contest is its defeat. The massive dragon bows its head, conceding defeat in this contest. It reflects on how intriguing beings appear after a lengthy slumber, catching the Rain's notice. Curious Leah inquires why the dragon had been asleep for 2 millennia. The creature seems taken aback, echoing the number as if grasping the vast time elapsed. It starts to share that a friend from ages past advised it to slumber. This companion was an elf who spoke of the tales from his village. A hesitant Leah questions whether the dragon still plans to consume her and the elves. The dragon appears genuinely perplexed, asking why it would do something that could upset its stomach. An irate Leah reminds the dragon of its own foreboding words regarding offerings. She points out that it was the one who mentioned contracts and sacrifices. The great beast begins to clarify, revealing what its elven companion had actually conveyed. It recounts a prophecy about a mighty light magic user awakening it after ages. Leah gasps, realizing the world crisis was merely a depletion of manpower. The dragon corrects her, asserting it was a genuine crisis of vanishing magic. It confirms that the world's magic was indeed on the brink of extinction. In earlier times, no light mage possessed power as great as Rain's. The dragon states that this is where Rain himself enters the narrative. It bows its head in submission, claiming it requires light magic to endure. The other elf girl gasps in disbelief at an ancient dragon begging. The dragon persists in its plea, likening itself to a helpless lamb in need. Rain finds the dragon's self-pitying comparison to a lamb utterly absurd. He instantly and cheerfully agrees to lend his mana whenever the dragon requires it. Leah is taken aback by how effortlessly Rain has made such a monumental promise. The dragon is ecstatic, affirming Rain's unconditional acceptance of their agreement. With a powerful flap of its wings, the dragon ascends into the sky. Rain steels himself, declaring he must now prepare for what's next. The dragon mentions it has one final matter to address first. It releases a thunderous roar that resonates with tremendous force throughout the forest. Rain explains it is asserting dominance, ensuring the forest is safe for them. He apologizes to a startled Leah for the sudden roar's noise. As it departs, Leah voices her concern about Rain's nonchalant promise. He dismisses her concerns, claiming sharing his magic is no hassle. A future narration hints he won't grasp the true implications for a while. Later, Rain stares in horror at 2 plates of strange, pixelated cuisine. Leah beams as she presents the meal, urging him to dig in with a broad smile. He stands frozen in shock, a small spirit creature mirroring his confusion. Rain's mind spirals in panic, beads of sweat forming at the sight of the food. Leah finds it amusing that a human wouldn't recognize such typical elven dishes. He mentally categorizes the meals as a vegetable salad and a forest bird sauté. Both look equally unappetizing to him despite his efforts to be courteous. Leah leans in, teasingly asking why he hasn't touched his food. The pressure builds as he realizes the precarious situation he finds himself in. He frantically searches for his wolf companion, Shiro, hoping for a diversion. Shiro wisely peeks from behind a tree before vanishing from sight entirely. The wolf is nowhere to be seen, having deserted him to face his fate. Rain understands he is truly alone with no chance of escape. He attempts to fake a sudden illness to avoid eating. Leah's face shifts to one of genuine concern, asking if he really won't eat. Sweat streams down Rain's face as he grapples with the dreadful choice. With a grimace of painful determination, he clenches his fist tightly. He dashes frantically into the forest, clearly on the verge of losing his lunch. He yells a forest itadakimasu, sending birds flying from the branches. 2 elven girls call out to him, clearly worried about his well-being. Later, he's found unconscious on a bed, while the girls hover anxiously. Leah muses if he fled from the dragon just to escape her cooking. A spirit creature urges them to stop gawking and help him recover. A hot cup of tea sits on the nightstand, waiting for him. Rain stirs awake and takes a sip, feeling revitalized by the brew. He comments on the tea's exquisite taste, relishing every drop. Leah inquires if he intends to leave the village the following day. He affirms, explaining he'll stay overnight to ease his mother's worries. Leah perches by his bedside, listening intently as he shares his plans. She nods thoughtfully, her expression serious and contemplative. She addresses him formally, her tone shifting to that of an elven leader. Before he departs, she mentions having an important favor to ask. Rain is taken aback by her sudden seriousness, asking what it entails. Another elf girl, Ruru, responds to Leah's call with a soft, yes. Leah instructs Rain to look at something first, hinting at a surprise. Ryan gasps at the sight of a large modern house nestled in the woods. The stone structure seems completely out of place in elven lands. He and Shiro cautiously approach the entrance, curiosity piqued. He peeks inside, Shiro's big inquisitive eyes right next to him. Suddenly, a hand covers his eyes from behind, blinding him. A chillingly sweet voice asks if he's been out all night. Rain recognizes his mother's voice, confused about how she found him. She scolds him, insisting the forest is far too perilous for a child. He apologizes repeatedly, vowing it won't happen again. His mother accepts his apology, but her expression remains stern. She declares he will receive a spanking to resolve the issue. Rain is horrified, fearing his backside is about to be in serious trouble. He frantically searches for a way out as a carriage rolls in. A man's voice calls out, announcing his return home. Ryan spots his father and rushes toward him with urgency. He leaps into his father's embrace, sobbing with relief. His father hugs him tightly, chuckling about how much he missed him. The family observes the reunion, his mother welcoming her husband back. She turns away stiffly, determined to punish Rain for his misdeeds. His sister Eerie watches with concern, whispering his name. The mother states she will talk to Eerie after handling Rain. Rain springs into action, begging his mother to hold on. He grabs her arm, pleading for a moment to explain. His sister Melia observes, hands clasped, worry etched on her face. She supports Rain, suggesting they should at least hear him out. Rain celebrates his small win, having bought himself some time. He proudly thinks to himself that he's saved his own skin. The family gathers around a table, sipping tea in a fragile peace. His mother, father, and sisters all remark on the tea's delightful flavor. Eerie exclaims about how wonderful it is, and Rain nods with pride. His mother inquires where he found such a rare and refreshing tea. Rain presents a jar, explaining it was gathered from an elven village. The domain's lord is taken aback, questioning if an elf truly exists. Rain assures them he will later explain how he connected with the elves. His father exclaims in disbelief, recalling that elves severed ties with humanity. With a serious demeanor, Rain declares there's one more revelation to share. He unveils a large, shimmering piece of fabric, delighting the women present. The stunning fabric glimmers brilliantly, catching the light and everyone's gaze. Melia admires the beautiful cloth, while Eerie excitedly identifies it as silk. A flashback reveals an elf explaining that the fabric comes from Mothra larva thread. Another memory shows the elves crafting the garments, unaware of their high worth abroad. The elf elder shares their people's wish for friendship and trade with humans. Rain's father inquires what the elves seek in return for their precious goods. In a flashback, the Lord is commended for being direct in their conversation. The memory ends with the elves expressing a desire for durable iron tools and peaceful trade. Back in the present, Rain concludes his report to his family gathered at the table. He clarifies that he has negotiated this much as the Lord's son. With dramatic flair, he seeks his father's final verdict on the situation. The Lord beams with joy, shouting Rain's name in celebration. Rain gazes up at his father, taken aback by the intensity of his happiness. His father embraces him, asking about the silk's feel, leaving Rain exasperated. Brian recalls the peril, remembering the elves' deep-rooted animosity towards humans. He contemplates the remarkable achievement of securing trade for such premium goods. The Lord, still hugging Rain, expresses his joy at returning to the kingdom. Rain blushes, realizing his father is thrilled with the annihilation tea. His wolf companion, Shiro, lets out a contented yawn, feeling their efforts were worthwhile. Rain gently tugs at his father's sleeve, trying to catch his attention. Nearby, his sister Eri clutches her teddy bear, watching with a slight pout. The family gathers around, and Eri speaks to her brother, Rain. Eri mutters to herself, feeling her father is giving her the cold shoulder. She turns to Rain, her expression now warm, and begins to explain something. Eri reveals she told on him for sneaking home so quietly. Surrounded by his smiling family, Eri officially welcomes her big brother back. The joyful reunion triggers a sudden, jarring memory for Rain. He remembers standing before the colossal, terrifying foot of the ancient dragon. A memory flashes of the elves cheerfully waving goodbye. The joyful faces of his family starkly contrast his dark recollections. Ren's expression is haunted, burdened by the weight of his recent battles. His father ruffles his hair, and Rain manages a smile, declaring he is home. His mother's expression turns sweetly menacing as she reminds him that staying out is forbidden. She orders him to present himself for punishment, much to his horror. The sound of a door slamming reverberates through the grand family manor. Later, people in the bustling marketplace discuss the domain's remarkable growth. Two men chat about how the influx of newcomers has created jobs but also issues. A messy alleyway illustrates the new problem of garbage being carelessly discarded. The scene transitions to a vast, serene forest landscape beneath a cloudy sky. Rain and his wolf companion, Shiro, arrive at a pristine natural lake. Rain joyfully splashes in the water, exclaiming how wonderful it feels. Shiro relaxes on the shore, recalling they came to this lake for fun. In his thoughts, Shiro remembers that this lake was formed long ago. A flashback shows Rain causing a massive magical explosion, creating a giant crater. Now, the crater is filled with warm water, making it an ideal spot for play. Rain shouts to his sister on the beach, urging her to come join him. Eri looks flustered, explaining she can't because she lacks a swimsuit. Rain, bobbing in the water, attempts to ask her what she said earlier. He struggles to catch her words from afar, looking confused. A small disc-like object quietly sinks into the water beside him. Out of nowhere, a much larger object erupts from the water, startling him. His cheerful mood evaporates as he hauls a large piece of junk from the lake. In disbelief, he wonders if the locals are dumping trash in this spot. He connects this to the recent issues with the new arrivals he had heard about. He mourns the loss of the once pristine lake, now tainted. Feeling down, he climbs out of the water as Eri greets him. He chooses to keep the trash discovery to himself from his sister. Deciding to take a break, he starts waving his arms wildly. He playfully flails his arms, trying to catch his sister's attention again. He asks Eri what she was saying earlier, since he couldn't hear her. Eri explains that the lake is filled with slimes, which frightens her. She admits she's a bit scared at the thought of them. Rain, puzzled, repeats the word slimes, having sensed none. He continues waving his arms, brushing off her worries about the hidden creatures. He playfully points a finger, still not taking her fears seriously. A small gelatinous blob suddenly lands right on the underwear he's holding. He yelps in shock, asking what this creature is as it seems to greet him. Holding the creature up for a closer inspection, his shock turns to awe. His eye reflects the slime's intricate, sparkling core, captivated by its allure. He murmurs that the slime is stunning, entranced by the sight. He notes its transparency, with an aurora-like glow shimmering within. He asks if he's all right, concerned the slime might dissolve anything it touches. The beautiful slime leaps from his hand and harmlessly splats on the ground. Rain chuckles, assuring his anxious sister that he is completely fine. He shifts his gaze from the intriguing slime to his apprehensive sister, an idea forming. He admits he wasn't keen on playing at first either, but now he is. His thought trails off as the atmosphere shifts to one of shared curiosity. Later, Ellie sits next to the massive Shiro, thanking him for stopping her. She explains to a bewildered Rain that she was about to leap into the lake. She reveals she spotted a lost item belonging to a slime and felt compelled to retrieve it. Rain is taken aback by her knowledge, asking if she has a friend who knows about monsters. Ellie grows curious, asking Rain for more details about this mysterious person. Rain clarifies that he only knows slimes are often found near water bodies. Ellie remembers how the object she saw could dissolve anything it touched. This ignites an idea in Rain's mind, and he clenches his fist with determination. He turns to Ellie with a bright grin, suggesting they conduct an experiment. They gather leaves and twigs, dropping them into the water to examine its effects. The items visibly dissolve in the water, accompanied by an audible sizzle. The water fizzes and bubbles as the forest debris is consumed. They watch in amazement as the items are entirely devoured by the lake. A look of dawning realization spreads across Rain's face as he surveys the area. He spots a small gelatinous blob resting on the grass by the water's edge. He gestures from the dissolving items to the piece of slime on the ground. His eyes widen as the connection clicks into place, a flash of insight. He exclaims to Ellie that the items in the lake are beginning to melt. With a beaming smile, Rain eagerly showcases a small peanut-shaped find. Nearby, his sister Ellie is fast asleep, her head resting against the enormous snoozing Shiro. A close-up reveals Ellie's serene face, radiating contentment and cuteness. Noticing her slumber, Rain smiles affectionately and prepares to drape his cloak over her. After covering her, he contemplates how the peculiar slime he discovered could be utilized in their realm. He remembers suggesting a slime farm to his father, who appeared utterly uninterested. Ryan recalls his father's dismissive expression, realizing he needs a new strategy. He decides to reverse engineer the problem, figuring out how the slime's dissolving trait could help. A sudden loud splash from the lake jolts him from his thoughts. The disturbance in the water sparks a brilliant idea in his mind. He gently nudges Shiro awake, instructing him to head home without disturbing Ellie. A determined grin spreads across his face as he declares he needs to consult their tough guy. The peanut-shaped object reappears, now a crucial element of his new strategy. In an office, Ryan's father and an aide examine a proposal for environmental cleanup. A sample of the glimmering gelatinous slime sits in a wooden box on the desk. Rain reports on the escalating waste issue and illegal dumping in the woods. His father considers the slime's unique properties as a possible solution to the problem. He acknowledges that if the plan succeeds, it will greatly benefit their community. His thoughts drift to the past, remembering the many dangerous slimes he had eliminated. He firmly states he won't risk exposing his people to such a potentially deadly creature. The aide confirms he has also never encountered a slime like this one. Rain inquires if the slimes his father battled appear different from their current sample. His father leans over the box, scrutinizing the slime with interest. Suddenly, he slams his hand down, startling Rain, and announces he touched it directly. Rain recoils, shock etched on his face, fearing for his father's safety. His father reassures him that the sample has the same unique dissolving sensation. He notes that while the sensation is identical, it doesn't seem to be dissolving his hand. Looking at his unharmed hand, he confirms the strange feeling poses no danger. Rain's mother, Melia, points out a significant difference. This slime lacks a magic core. A vision of a massive, monstrous creature illustrates that all monsters have these cores. The father concludes that this creature must be a new or variant species. A polite knock interrupts and Fritz's head peeks in, announcing his presence. He formally apologizes for the interruption as he steps into the room. The door swings fully open, revealing the aide has entered. Melia explains that a tearful ally insisted on visiting her beloved big brother. The father suggests Fritz have some tea while they await the children. Ellie bursts in, her face glowing with a sudden realization about the slime's lost item. She rushes to Rain and hugs him tightly, relieved he retrieved the lost item. A flashback reveals her earlier determination to recover the item from the lake herself. Now composed, she gazes at Rain and asks what the slime's lost item truly is. She holds a small ornate box, her face brimming with innocent curiosity. Looking up at her brother, her wide eyes await his response. Rain gently corrects her, suggesting that the slime itself is the lost item. Their father overhears, his expression puzzled by the odd turn of the discussion. A profound realization hits Rain, his eyes widening in shock and comprehension. He pulls Ellie close, turning to his mother to share his groundbreaking new theory. He explains that the sample is merely a fragment of a much larger body in the lake. His father strokes his chin, grasping the implication that this is just a piece. He declares that operational planning must be postponed. A thorough investigation is essential. Rain's eyes shine with excitement at the thought of the new mission. He steps forward with fervor, pleading directly to his father. He brushes aside his lessons, insisting the slime investigation takes precedence. Calmly, his mother interjects, halting their rising argument. With a tranquil demeanor, she offers a suggestion. Her husband inquires if she feels anxious, proposing they send a guard with Rain. Rain glances at his mother, taken aback by her unexpected calmness. She asserts confidently that she has no concerns about Rain's safety. Rain watches, utterly confused by his mother's unusual faith in him. She clarifies that her true worry is Rain's potential use of magic, which could escalate issues. She dismisses the idea of sending untrained citizens or hiring adventurers as too slow and ineffective. With a knowing grin, she proclaims there's a far superior solution. She gestures around, announcing that the right person is already here. Her husband observes, recognizing the undeniable logic in her argument. Her gaze falls on Freed, who responds with a curious, "Yes?" She quickly dismisses the notion of Freed going, clarifying that's not her intention. A radiant, confident smile spreads across her face as she prepares to make her announcement. Placing a hand on her heart, she declares that she, Milliam Proud Road, will take on the task. Rain and his father are left speechless, stunned by her bold choice. Their shared astonishment resonates from the manor in a prolonged cry. The scene shifts to the expansive sky above the forest. Rain and his mother, Melia, ride together atop the enormous Shiro. Shiro races through the trees as Melia exclaims about his incredible speed. She closes her eyes, feeling as if she is merged with the wind. Rain notes internally that Shiro is actually running slower and more gently for her comfort. He exclaims that Shiro is being exceptionally considerate, and his mother smiles in agreement. Shiro barks happily in confirmation, and Melia praises the thoughtful creature. A bead of sweat forms on Rain's brow. He never anticipated his mother would join him. A flashback reveals his father and Freed agreeing it would be fine for her to come. He recalls his initial plan to enjoy the forest adventure solo. His mother playfully teases him, pointing out his disappointment is evident on his face. Rain gets flustered, denying it while his mother chuckles softly. She questions why he is so fascinated by slimes, a subject she never encouraged. She shares that her own interest began during her student days. Rain recalls Fried mentioning something about his mother's school days. She remembers being a top-tier magic user at a prestigious academy in the capital. While studying beast magic, she discovered an ancient, forgotten text in the library. As they continue writing, Rain asks what the ancient book contained. She dreamily quotes a line, "Those who find the Aurora slime will discover happiness." The book's content is described more like an old urban legend than a scholarly study. Ryan inquires about the slime's specific habitat and its physical traits. She recalls it inhabits areas near beautiful waters where magic is abundant. He presses her for additional details regarding its other features. She remembers the book mentioning its exceptional digestive capabilities. She also recalls the text describing its distinctive and characteristic cry. Rain gets excited, exclaiming that its cry must be incredibly adorable. His mother tries to recall if there was anything else noteworthy in the text. Lost in thought, she is startled when Rain announces they have reached the lake. Flustered by their sudden arrival, she lets out a small gasp of surprise. The view reveals a stunning, clear lake embraced by lush green woods. The air is filled with the soft, pleasant chirping of birds perched on branches. A woman with flowing blonde locks remarks on the invigorating scent of the forest. By a tranquil lake, she shares how delightful the ambiance feels. She detects a strong magical aura radiating from the young boy practicing nearby. The young boy, Rain, turns and calls out to his friend. Gazing at the lake, she ponders a peculiar, vague shape in the water. Bubbles burst forth from the lake, unveiling a small, unusual object. Rain tells his mother this is the same item he discovered earlier. The bubbling intensifies, spreading across the water's surface. With growing confidence, Rain deduces that the Aurora slime is indeed here. A massive, shimmering slime bursts from the lake, emitting a high-pitched wail. Astonished by its size, Rain recognizes the creature's distinctive cry. He glances back at his mother, anticipating her fear. Rain starts to comfort his mother, urging her not to be scared. However, his mother simply notes that the slime must have thrived on good food. She wishes for her children to grow as large, leaving Rain perplexed. The enormous slime reaches out a pseudopod toward some floating debris. A sizable wooden dresser floats among the refuse in the lake. As the slime consumes the trash, the mother identifies it as litter. The large piece of furniture is entirely dissolved within the slime's mass. Both mother and son gaze in awe at the astonishing display of digestion. Rain is amazed, asking his mother if she saw its remarkable ability. He realizes his plan to use the slime for waste management was spot on. With this capability, he believes the entire region's waste issue can be resolved. Now, he just needs to figure out how to transport it. Turning to his friend, he apologizes that their fun must pause for now. Shiro suddenly emits a low, threatening growl, sensing an unseen threat. Rain inquires about the issue as the great wolf fixates on the forest. His own sharp senses pick up a faint noise coming from the woods. The low, foreboding buzzing steadily increases, instilling a sense of dread. His expression tightens as he confirms the sound is drawing closer. His mother suddenly gasps, declaring this is a dire situation. Startled by her sudden alarm, Rain asks what troubles her. She reveals that she just recalled an important detail from her studies. She remembers the ancient text describing the Aurora slime as a volatile magical entity. The book also cautioned that instinct-driven creatures like killer bees would attack it. Rain grimly observes that everything is unfolding just as the book predicted. His mother nods, her displeasure evident, confirming her distaste for the situation. As the swarm descends, Rain shouts for his mother to take cover. He quickly instructs Shiro to use wind magic, planning to act as a decoy. He is resolute in his determination to shield his mother at all costs. His mother confidently casts her burning net spell to intercept the swarm. The entire horde of giant wasps is instantly incinerated by her magical flames. Rain stands in shock at the astonishing speed of her spell's activation. He shifts his gaze from the fading embers back to his mother. She grins playfully, asking if he enjoyed witnessing her impressive side for a change. She then begins a powerful incantation, her staff radiating immense energy. A tremendous surge of magical energy erupts from the tip of her staff. Her rising flame spell creates a devastating vortex of purification. Ren grumbles that one shouldn't wield such destructive magic with a casual grin. His mother smiles, aware that the slime was a being they couldn't afford to provoke. The final monstrous wasps are utterly annihilated by the blazing magic. In the stillness that follows, Rain and Shiro are surrounded by descending magic stones. The grassy field is now scattered with large, seemingly valuable magic stones. Rain beams at the sight of such an enormous haul of magic stones left behind. He suggests to his faithful companion, Shiro, that they should collect them. A sudden piercing noise slices through the air, causing Rain to gasp. His expression twists in horror as he witnesses something dreadful happening. A colossal hornet has emerged, piercing him through the chest. His mother screams his name, filled with sheer terror. She realizes in horror that a much larger hornet has managed to survive. The creature seizes her, and she fights to escape its grasp. She finds herself being pulled away by the formidable insect. A chilling realization dawns on her. This must be a unique individual. The creature takes to the air, carrying her off as its captive. She screams a frantic warning to Rain, urging him to be cautious. Suddenly, a massive bubble of slime bursts forth, engulfing the hornet and its captive. The thick liquid hurls the woman away from the giant hornet. As she tumbles through the strange substance, she finds herself free from the monster. Realizing the slime has rescued her, she quickly devises her escape. Meanwhile, Rain is also caught in the slime and begins to sink swiftly. Gasping for air, he realizes he's sinking far too fast. He braces himself for the agony of being dissolved, just like the other hornets. To his astonishment, he discovers he isn't being dissolved by the substance. He spots a massive, brilliantly glowing crystal suspended in the darkness. Glancing at his own hand, he reassures himself that he isn't dissolving. A stream of bubbles flows from the crystal, carrying an otherworldly voice. He wonders if the voice belongs to the woman from the magic stone. He drifts closer to the crystal, trying to locate the source of the voice. He attempts to speak, but only bubbles escape his lips. He realizes he can convey his thoughts without uttering a word. He inquires if his voice is audible, and the entity confirms it is. Taking a shot in the dark, he asks if it is the Aurora slime. The crystal glows as the voice affirms that's the name people use. He watches the hornet's corpse slowly sinking and dissolving into the depths. He then questions the slime about why he alone isn't dissolving. The crystal flashes as the voice repeats his question in disbelief. The entity asserts that the idea of him vanishing is utterly impossible. Rain is completely taken aback by the overwhelming power of this emotional reaction. The voice then unveils a shocking truth. He is its savior. Rain protests that this is their first encounter, and he has no memory of it. The entity agrees they have indeed never met until now. However, it insists that he is still the one who saved it. The voice then reveals a staggering truth. This entire lake is its body. Rain struggles to grasp what this revelation could possibly signify. The entity begins to share its tale, identifying itself as the Aurora slime. It explains that it is an exceptionally rare mutant species among slimes. A vision reveals it being hunted by other races and even fellow slimes. The slime shares that it was born in this very forest, no exceptions. From a young age, it lived in constant fear of being devoured. In that state, it barely managed to survive by collecting morning dew. Suspended in the glowing slime, Ryan reflects on how terrifying the creature truly is. The slime's voice discloses that it was rain who alleviated its ongoing torment. A flashback depicts the slime as a small, shapeless blob traversing a grassy glade. The recollection continues, revealing its injured form dragging itself, merely awaiting death. While concealed in some foliage, the slime's desperate trek is abruptly and violently halted. From the slime's viewpoint, a colossal fire rain spell is unleashed. A memory of young Rain is framed by floating cherry blossoms. The slime reminisces about his kind face from that pivotal moment. In the present, Rain gasps in shock, realizing it was that moment. The slime recalls suddenly appearing before its radiant crystalline core. In the past, the slime gazed at the vast crater created by Rain. It remembers the small boy approaching the pit where its core rested. The slime recalls him summoning water with astonishingly pure, magical energy. The younger Rain smiled softly as he crafted his magic. He knelt down, releasing a cascade of sparkling water from his palms. In the present, Rain winces, recalling he was just trying to cover his tracks. A flush of embarrassment spreads across his cheeks as he remembers his true intent. He acknowledges that his creation of the lake wasn't for any noble cause. The slime's voice asserts that his intentions are irrelevant. He saved it. Rain floats serenely in the watery abyss, absorbing the slime's tale. The slime ponders the oddity of being able to converse with him. It clarifies that it shouldn't be capable of verbal exchange with a human. This special bond formed when he submerged its core in his magical lake. Suddenly, Rain gasps for breath, his body starting to convulse as he drowns. He makes a frantic plea, asking what he should do next. A wave of lethargy washes over him, his eyelids growing heavy. The slime assures him it comprehends his thoughts and will fulfill his wish. It explains that while it can't leave, parts of its body are separate. The slime gratefully offers its dissolving form for Rain to utilize as he sees fit. He raises his fist in victory, thrilled that the domain's waste issue is resolved. The slime promises an endless supply of magic as long as he remains unharmed. Ryan expresses his thanks, but the slime has one last request to make. Its voice resonates from the crystal, repeating that it has one final inquiry. It asks to know Rain's name, so it can be etched onto its magical stone. Rain humbly begins, stating he is not someone of great significance. He proudly declares his full name, Rinford Proud Road. The slime finds his name comforting, and Rain promises to return. Its voice wishes him well for the future as their bond begins to fade. Rain's body goes limp, his hand reaching for the crystal as he loses consciousness. He awakens in a bed, disoriented, as his sister calls out to him. At his bedside, his sister and mother weep with overwhelming relief. The long-haired woman envelops him in a tight, desperate embrace. His sister, Ellie, joins the emotional hug, overwhelmed with joy. The large white wolf, Shiro, prepares to joyfully leap onto the bed. Cheryl bounds onto the bed, adding to the chaotic pile of affection. Rain cries out, feeling overwhelmed by the weight of his loving friends. The bedroom door suddenly bursts open with a loud crash. His father and aide rush in, shouting his name, relieved to see him awake. A comical diagram illustrates Rain being squished under Shiro's weight. His father proclaims he won't let a slime outshine him. He poses confidently, cheerfully greeting his father with a loud, "Good morning, Rain." Grafford stands tall, showcasing his physique in an odd manner. Rain is completely perplexed by his father's bizarre and exaggerated antics. Grayford beams with joy, interpreting the magic as a cheerful gesture towards him. Ryan ponders the oddity of this couple, as his father insists there's nothing wrong. The focus shifts to the outside of the Grand Proud Road family estate. Later, Rain discovers he was out cold for a full 2 days. He remembers being engulfed by the slime while Cheryl observed closely. He recounts how Shiro swiftly rescued him from the slime's grasp. Rain shares his encounter with the Aurora slime with his family. His sister is astonished, but the incident is brushed off as merely a dream. His father decides they will gather the townsfolk to collect the slime later. Grafford starts outlining future plans for utilizing the slime. He notes that the slime possesses properties with an additional effect. Ellie lifts Rain's jacket, revealing its stunning new color. Greyford realizes the slime's liquid could serve as a unique dye. He eagerly instructs his aide to examine the slime remnants at home. Ren, eager to join in, is told by his family to rest quietly. He reflects that this simple, ongoing joy is all he ever desired. A distant rhythmic sound begins to echo, signaling a shift. The sound of hoofbeats from strange reptilian mounds grows increasingly loud. Two formidable figures on a ridge survey the vast city below. The riders recognize the land beneath them as the proud Rhodes domain. On a barren shore, a massive draconic hand presses into the earth. Two figures on their mounts gaze at an expansive lake, awestruck by its size. One rider remarks that the initial reports were not exaggerated. The other dips his hand into the water, curious about the methods used. His companion confirms that this is exactly what they came to discover. In a sunlit field, Rain is harvesting tomatoes when someone calls out to him. He glances up from his task, a straw hat shielding his eyes. Two women approach him, insisting he need not do their work. Rain smiles, explaining he must grasp the labor of his people. He thinks to himself that this is all for his envisioned slow life. A woman joyfully notes the increased harvest since the dam's construction. A young boy points out that a carriage has arrived for Lord Rain. Rain walks through the tall crops toward the imposing black carriage. The ornate carriage rattles along a dirt path through the countryside. Inside, Rain's aide questions the need for sending a carriage for him. The aide's expression turns serious as he prepares to share grave news. Their carriage passes through a thick forest and rugged mountains. The aide informs Rain that guests have arrived and he is needed. He explains that Rain's father specifically requested his presence. Rain asks who the guests are and why he must be there. The aide reveals they are the undefeated nomadic Bliant tribe from the east. Ryan is stunned, repeating the tribe's renowned name in disbelief. He sheepishly admits he has never actually heard of them before. Albert explains they are nomads from the eastern plains within Proud Road territory. He adds that they maintain an equal relationship with the kingdom. Rain is astonished that a single tribe can remain autonomous from the empire. The source of their strength is revealed to be their legendary ground dragon core. A brawny man asserts that the military strength of his tribe rivals that of an entire nation. An aide elaborates that their mythical ground dragon core renders them invincible against any force. The aide gestures outside the carriage, urging a young boy named Rian to observe the ground dragons. Two massive, scaly reptilian creatures come into view, their powerful jaws and imposing figures dominating the scene. Rain stands in awe, overwhelmed by the sheer enormity of these magnificent beasts. In an opulent hall, Lord Rhiniford strides in, announcing his presence to the gathered guests. A guest exclaims in surprise, recognizing Lord Rhiniford's son, Ryan, as he rushes into the room. A man sporting a thick mustache introduces himself as Basil Blayan, the chieftain of the Eastern Plains tribe. Basil expresses regret for their abrupt visit, while Rain is taken aback by the man's imposing figure. Rain notes that the chieftain's muscles surpass even those of his own father. Next to the chieftain sits his son, a younger man with a lean physique. The son introduces himself as Selgi Bliant, his demeanor serious and his long nails striking. Rain observes that unlike the others, Selgi possesses a more graceful and slender build. Lord Rhiniford extends a formal welcome, expressing gratitude for their long journey. Across from them, Rainfurt inquires why the elusive Bliant tribe has come to seek them. Rains picks up on the room's tension, noticing his father's cautious expression. Renford suspects their unexpected visit might signal impending conflict. He wonders if they are assessing the dangers of a potential territorial war. Basil gets straight to the point, making a serious and direct appeal. He earnestly requests Lord Rhiniford's assistance for his tribe. The unexpected request leaves both Ryan and his father utterly speechless. Reinfurt clarifies that as a mere lord, he is uncertain about what help he can provide. A view from the window reveals the vast, barren landscape of their territory. He continues, expressing doubt about his ability to assist the powerful blind people. Seljai interjects, offering to explain their dire circumstances on behalf of the chieftain. He recounts how his people have always led a nomadic existence around three Great Lakes. Their survival has always depended on these seasonal migrations with their livestock. With a somber expression, he reveals that all three lakes have inexplicably dried up. Lord Reinfurt reacts in shock to the news of this sudden environmental disaster. Rain, however, recalls how his father's arid eastern lands miraculously became fertile. He connects this to the recent emergence of a new lake and high-quality iron products. The chieftain bows his head in humility, pleading for their assistance. He urges them to utilize their wasteland reclamation technology to aid the blind people. A heavy silence envelops the room as Rain and his father contemplate the request. Lord Reinfurt glances at his son, Rain, who appears lost in thought. Rain clears his throat, ready to speak and take control of the situation. The chieftain agrees to any terms they propose, desperate for a resolution. Ren states he will be straightforward, asking for something in return for their help. Selj erupts in furious anger at what he perceives as a serious affront. He yells that Ryan is being disrespectful and questions his attitude towards the chieftain. Basil quickly places a firm hand on his son's shoulder, halting his outburst. The chieftain calmly tells his son that he is the one being impolite. Lord Reinfurt apologizes for his son's bluntness, attempting to ease the tension. Selkie argues that it matters between nations, and accepting aid without cost is far scarier. Renford clarifies that his son was simply trying to advance the discussion efficiently. He lightly teases Basil, noting that his son's fiery temperament mirrors his own. He admits that his son's mature behavior can sometimes catch him off guard. However, his expression shifts to seriousness as he returns to the matter at hand. He declares that he will elaborate on the reclamation of the Eastern Wasteland. With a subtle, knowing smirk, he states that Reinfeld's magical power was the project's core. Basil, the chieftain, pounds the table, taken aback by the mention of magic. With a stern look, he tells his son Selgi to hush. Regaining his poise, he offers a brief apology for his outburst. He clarifies that the blind individuals are warriors, lacking knowledge of the arcane. Selgi affirms that his people have almost no grasp of magic. He gazes intently at Rain, a bead of sweat trickling down as he processes the news. Feeling the weight of the stare, Rain asks if something's on his face. The chieftain admits that magic is irrelevant. His priority is saving his tribe. After a moment's thought, he strokes his mustache, crafting an offer. He suggests providing them with 20 horses and sheep, along with processed goods. Lord Reinfurt glances at his son, placing his trust in him for the negotiation. He adds that they will ensure a steady food supply. The chieftain, looking troubled, admits he has little else of worth to give. Rain raises a finger, stating that he seeks just one reward. He proposes a fair and ongoing trade relationship once the crisis is over. His vision stretches to future generations, yearning for a lasting alliance. A heavy silence envelops the room as the blind delegation weighs his daring proposal. Inside, Rain revels in his own cleverness, convinced this is a brilliant move. He reasons that a long-term trade deal yields far more than a one-off payment. His true desire surfaces. He longs to see his sister Ellie in a cozy sweater. The thought flusters him, leaving him stammering awkwardly. The chieftain misreads his enthusiasm, moved to tears by the boy's generosity. He had perceived the boy as naive, but now recognizes a deep yearning for friendship. Ren smiles, realizing his motives are about half self-serving. Lord Reinfurt agrees to the proposal on his son's behalf, urging them to finalize arrangements. He affectionately pats Rain on the head, proud of his young charge's achievement. The chieftain jumps up, declaring that Reinfurt's son is far too grand for their modest land. He asserts that their proud territory is a steal for such a partnership. Energized, he commands his son to ride back immediately and inform their people. On their ground dragons, Basil tells Reinfurt they will reconvene in a few days. Lord Reinfurt waves cheerfully at his departing guests. He turns to his son, suggesting they should also head back. Ryan watches them leave, his expression distant and contemplative. Seljit glances back, his face serious and deep in thought. The two blind warriors ride off across the plains on their enormous beasts. Rain mutters to himself, worry etched on his face, questioning if he's just invited trouble. Days later, Ryan rides his wolf, Shiro, across a magically frozen sea, awed by his companion's strength. Shiro barks happily, its face glowing with pride at its master's praise. Ryan rolls joyfully in the grass of the vast eastern plains alongside Shiro. He reflects on the brief time since the Blyant clan's visit. He had vowed to assist, but knew the necessary preparations would take time. After sending the supply wagons ahead, he and Shiro made their own way. He muses that the journey was much quicker than anticipated, thanks to Shiro's remarkable speed. Upon reaching their destination, he receives a loving lick from the joyful wolf. In the distance, Basil rushes toward them, kicking up dust and calling Rain's name. The chieftain greets him warmly, expressing gratitude for making the long trek. Ron politely thanks the chieftain for the warm reception. Basil gestures to the crowd behind him, announcing that everyone has been eagerly anticipating their arrival. Rain spots Shiro peeking shyly from behind a building, unaccustomed to such large gatherings. The chieftain instructs Rain to follow him, explaining that the supply carriages have just arrived. Wagons and crates signal the Bleeheart clan's arrival. Rain is taken aback by the sheer volume of food, a testament to his father's foresight. Close up on the glistening tomatoes, their freshness highlighted. Basil, the clan's chief, remarks on the unfamiliar crops in this area. Basil decisively reaches for a tomato, eager to taste. He gasps at its sweetness, mistaking it for fruit, but Rain corrects him. Ryan surveys the plains, concluding that the locals primarily consume milk. His gaze lands on a young boy standing alone by the supplies. The child watches with a mix of curiosity and uncertainty. Rain motions for the boy, who stands with his family, to approach. He warmly introduces himself and offers the boy a tomato. The small child clutches the large, shiny red fruit. He takes a big, juicy bite, the flavor exploding in his mouth. The boy's face brightens with joy as he exclaims how delicious it is. Basil nods in approval, and the child suggests calling Rain by his name. Rain humbly requests they simply call him Rain, not by his title. The chieftain's son, Serge, is captured in a dark, intense close-up. Basil agrees to refer to him as Lord Rain, prompting Rain to address Serge formally. With a stern and confrontational look, Sarah steps forward. Ryan glances back at the young man, his expression a mix of nervousness and confusion. Sarge highlights the abundance of food that will quell their hunger. He acknowledges the arduous journey they must have faced with such heavy loads. He sharply questions why not a single drop of water was included. His frustration mounts as he wonders if they even heard their plight. Basil roars at his son to back down, his patience wearing thin. With a dismissive wave, he silences his son's outburst. He angrily chastises Serge for failing to grasp the depth of their suffering. Sarge appears visibly hurt and shocked by his father's harsh public reprimand. Rain calmly tells Sarah that he didn't bring any water. He explains that there was simply no reason for him to do so. Basil places a hand on Serge's shoulder, explaining that water can be conjured. The chieftain is taken aback, stammering his question about how they can create it. He points out the massive crowd, far too many for a single mage to manage. Rain watches with a knowing look, a plan clearly forming in his mind. A man apologizes to Serge for the challenging and possibly unfair discussion. He gestures to the empty water jugs, asking if that was their concern. Serge quietly affirms that was his earlier understanding of the situation. With renewed resolve, he vows to demonstrate a solution. Small shimmering droplets of water begin to form and rise. Reinhardt smiles, revealing he is the one conjuring the water, surprising Serge. He notes that despite Serge's anger, he genuinely cares for his people. He concentrates, remembering that this water is vital for everyone. Basil watches in shock as streams of water swirl around them. Ryan explains that magic of this magnitude without a chant should be impossible. He envisions rain cascading down a mountain, forming a pure, clear stream. With a powerful gesture, Rain unleashes a massive torrent of water. The deluge crashes down with tremendous force, creating a thunderous splash. He breathes heavily, a triumphant smile illuminating his face. He gazes at the crowd, all rendered speechless. His eyes widen as he fears he may have overstepped. A sudden realization hits him. He might have gone too far for this clan. Serge's sister carefully scoops some liquid from one of the jugs. She takes a sip, and the crowd holds its breath, faces tense with anticipation. Her eyes widen, pure shock and delight flooding her expression. She exclaims that the water is astonishingly delicious. Her face radiates joy as she declares it's the best she's ever had. Basil turns to Serge, playfully scolding him for his earlier doubts. The crowd murmurs in amazement, realizing they finally possess life-giving water. A surge of people rushes forward, excitedly clamoring for the water. The entire clan gathers around the jugs, drinking eagerly. A little boy asks his father for another drink, who readily agrees. An elderly man receives water, told he can finally indulge. Ren observes the scene, his heart swelling with warmth at their happiness. He decides to amplify their joy, conjuring another playful drop. A gentle, shimmering rain begins to fall from above, drenching the crowd. Basil is overwhelmed, tears of gratitude streaming down his cheeks. He whispers that this rain has miraculously saved the entire Bleeheart clan. Serge looks up at the magical downpour, shouting that it's the rain's magic. Drenched, he stands there, wonder etched on his face. His sister approaches Rain, asking if he can truly control the weather. Rain blushes, humbly admitting he can't perform such amazing feats. He clarifies that he merely used his water magic to send droplets skyward. A diagram illustrates how he utilized wind to transform water into rain. His sister laughs, confessing her confusion but feeling impressed. She concludes that he's an extraordinary magic user, no matter the technique. Serge stands apart, angrily asserting that this can't be true magic. His face reflects intense inner turmoil and deep confusion. Concerned, his sister asks what could possibly be troubling him. Rain realizes he's facing a family dynamic of father, brother, and sister. Serge's mind races, convinced there's a trick behind this chantless magic. He wrestles with his belief that magic users are weak and burdensome. Accepting the possibility that he might have been wrong his entire life is a struggle. His fist clenches tightly, internal conflict reaching a breaking point. He spins and slams his fist into a post, prompting his sister's alarmed cry. His sister and Rain watch in shock at his sudden, violent reaction. She asks where he's headed, while Rain feels compelled to speak with him. Rain points to the sky, attempting to ease the tense silence. He excitedly announces that a stunning rainbow has appeared. He hopes this rainbow can serve as a bridge between their two peoples. Rain's ear twitches as he detects a strange, low rumbling sound. He wonders aloud what the ominous noise in the distance could signify. Monstrous, multi-headed earth dragons burst forth from the surrounding shadows. Rain's face drains of color, shock, and terror overtaking him. The ominous, thunderous sound of the dragon's approach fills the atmosphere. Rhine and the sister find themselves completely encircled by the horde of beasts. A new figure emerges, mounted on a dragon, their identity shrouded in mystery. The rider's foot firmly plants on the dragon's scaled head, poised for action. With a powerful leap, the rider soars into the air, weapon drawn. The figure is revealed to be Serge, charging headlong into the fray. He roars in rage, demanding to know which of the monsters is to blame. A young woman's eyes widen in disbelief, a loud sound effect hinting at a forceful grip. Her fingers clutch a man's arm tightly, her words just starting to take shape. Horan angrily confronts the warrior Bartle, calling him a fool for his reckless actions. Brandishing a huge axe, Bartle demands to know why she dares to halt his charge. A foot crashes down powerfully as a young boy's dazed expression reveals his confusion. The clan leader holds Bartle's head down while Horan mistakenly believes the Empire is attacking. A colossal magical shockwave erupts, prompting Horan to shout that something extraordinary just occurred. The chieftain Bezel forces Bartle to bow his head in submission before the others. Basil angrily reprimands Bartle, questioning if he meant to harm their village's benefactor. Bartle scoffs, looking up with disdain at the notion of the boy being their savior. Horn steps forward, apologizing for Bartle's conduct, while the young boy Rain stands behind her. Rain realizes internally that Bartle is mockingly calling him a tiny magic user. Taken aback, Bartle offers a hesitant and somewhat flustered greeting. Rain formally presents himself as Reinfurt Proud Road, apologizing for the startling ruckus. Bartle collapses in disbelief, understanding that Reyna is acting on his father's official orders. The chieftain observes as his people eagerly gather around the newly filled water jugs. 3 young clansmen peer into a jug, their faces glowing with sheer joy at the sight of water. Bartle recoils in shock as he is unexpectedly pushed toward the life-giving liquid. He sputters, questioning if the strange white mist was responsible for the water's sudden appearance. His eyes widen, struggling to comprehend that a mere magic user could achieve such a feat. Horan cheerfully pushes his head into a jug, telling him to quit complaining and just drink. He surfaces from the water, sputtering and drenched from the unexpected dunk. Bartle bellows with pure joy, declaring that the water is unbelievably delicious. He exuberantly praises Rain, who appears overwhelmed by the warrior's sudden, boisterous demeanor. Bartle's expression shifts to serious as he apologizes and asks to learn one thing. He looks directly at Rain, requesting an explanation of the magic he just witnessed. Rhine, with Bartle's hand resting on his shoulder, calmly explains that it was his water magic. A memory flashes in Bartle's mind of seeing Rain perform a much more intricate ritual. The memory centers on the immense glowing energy that radiated from Rain's staff. Bartle laughs heartily, acknowledging that of course the boy's magic would be remarkable. He diverts his gaze, landing on a quiet young man named Serge. Bartle confronts Serge aggressively, shouting that a failure like him could never achieve something so incredible. Haran grabs Bartle by the collar, yanking him back and furiously reprimanding him. Gritting his teeth, Bartle insists he isn't lying about his deep frustration. He laments that if Serge possessed such power, their clan wouldn't need to depend on outsiders. Haran watches with a pained expression, his words leaving her speechless and hurt. Desperately, she turns to her father, the chieftain, pleading for him to say something. Basil clenches his fist tightly, acknowledging her difficult emotions. His expression hardens as he declares that for the Bray Heart tribe, power is paramount.